motion to accompany.
They do this
If you want it, I'm singing right now. It's a good time to get acquainted. It's a good time to know who's sitting right beside you and to smile and say hello. Goodbye, the lonely feeling. Goodbye, glassy stare. Here's my hand, my name is blah, 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 blah. They took the clock? Good. Okay.
5 months ago.
Yeah. You know, the thing is man, I wonder if there's a way to cool this place down. Yes. There's a thermostat back here. The first chance we get, we see the girl, somebody yell, we go, "You guys too hot," you know. Okay. Get through a bunch of the blah, blah, blah. Last night the magazine went out. Okay? So we got
Easy.
whatever. I know what's wrong with this thing.
You gotta join it first. I tried to see it. You gotta join first.
All right. The purpose of the magazine this time. Why is that blurry up there? The purpose of the magazine was it's Thanksgiving. Christmas, cover and all. We didn't have a Thanksgiving cover, so I asked them. I said, "What can I do that's kind of Thanksgiving?" Okay. So the cornucopia. All right. You have all plenty coming out of the cornucopia. Well, in the future, you just think it goes into it, and stuff comes out, okay? Well, what is it that we are very thankful for? That was the theme of the e-zine, okay? The authors were asked, and we got probably half the magazine just full of I am thankful for, a positive kind of look on the future as, we spiral into the abyss. So we go, what are we thankful for? So a lot of guys, and Frank, he wrote something, thank you. So what we did is it started off with fire. Fire's good, okay? So you start off with fire, you got the bow and arrow, katana, a rifle, sail, the wheel, you get into phonograph, spinning wheel, watches, light bulb, refrigeration, you have a, computer game, like that. Airplane, you get the 3D printers, phasers, tricorders, noisy cricket, the neuralizer, and Mr. Fusion, okay? So it kind of evolves. So the point that we were making, I wanted to see your legs, so that's always good to wait, is that we, in the future, this thing right here, a lot of you probably can't make it out. It's an airship. It carries, this is real, okay? The Army just, contracted for a whole bunch of these. They're dirigibles, but they're, kind of lifting bodies. Instead of wheels, landing gear, they have like, hover pads, that are hovercraft with air and so on, that they get moving a little bit. The lifting body will pick it up. And it can go, so it can carry even more than what the stuff, the buoyancy from helium. Guess how much they can carry with just kind of a guess. A couple thousand pounds, 10,000 pounds, 600 tons. Tons. This is a airship liner going partying, logging Antarctica kind of crap, okay? This is not later, this is now. Now you remember where we had the 3 kids, the tablet and the girl, overlooking a bay that was a futuristic bay. We had another version of this ship, docked at one of the buildings out in the harbor. That was September, so it was over a year ago. This has been coming, and it keeps developing. The point that I'm making is that we're going really fast in the, it doesn't matter what you can make, it's that you can make something that can make it. Oh, and what's that? That's a 3D printer. How many of you have never heard of 3D printing? Okay, let me tell you what that is.
I've seen them.
I go on the computer, and I go print. A machine that costs, you can buy them now for less than $2. This machine, instead of just printing something like a laser printer prints out, ink, imagine it keeps printing, and it goes down. And it prints it, a 3-dimensional version of anything. I'll give you an example. They print a race with bearings. They knock it out, and they just spin the bearings. I gotta show you this. You guys don't even believe it. We'll look at it. Oh yeah. No, anything. You can print it back. Let me give you an example. They took a a video camcorder, a small video camcorder, and they viewed it with a camera, went around this, got a 3D view of it. Then they replicated it, and it looked exactly the same, including the image that was on the screen. Damn. In color. You have no idea what the future is, and the big bad guys aren't telling you. Last night, excuse me while you interrupt. Last night I had an article from, where was it, Wired, I think. I sent it to my son. Elon Musk, that had PayPal, sold that gazillion dollars, did Falcon rocket launching, he's going to Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, Falcon from, named after the Millennium Falcon, okay, in Star Wars. Here's a gazillionaire who's going, how come we're not going to space? He goes, I don't get it. He goes, I look at that and I go, it's aircraft aluminum, and it's got like an infrastructure in there and tanks, and you put, fuel, and it like kind of goes up. I mean, why is it $1 trillion for these things? If I go like this and I put wings on it, it's 1/10 of the price, okay? I'm just wondering why. And so he went and searched. He goes, it's how government contracts work. You have 5 levels of contractor that subcontract to a subcontractor, subcontract to a subcontractor, and there's like money made. He's going, this is stupid. Plus, the technology that they're using is from the 1960s. He goes, it's even worse than that. There's launch companies that use Russian 1960s rocket technology. He goes, no, you don't understand. Not 1960s type rocket technology, actual 1960s Soviet rockets that they got stored somewhere. He goes, this is craziness. So here comes Elon Musk. He goes, we're going to make our own rocket engines. We're going to make our own. And the kind of people that I want, give a crap whether you went to school or not. I don't care if you got all this, blah, 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 blah. How big's your brain box? How imaginative are you? How can you just get it done? Well, that's my son, man. He's at, supervisor. He's 25 years old at Hughes Honeywell Aerospace, and he's just he's so frustrated. I go, here's a job application, man. Go over there. Talk about, I'll hook it up. I'll make a big giant woohoo. I'll make sure they look at it, man. You want to go? Let's go. Because this is a type of management style. It is take no prisoners. We're going to Mars. This whole thing, the first thing that he's doing is he's launching a greenhouse to Mars. He wants the money shot of sprouting with a red landscape out through the window, Mars out there with a green plant. He's sending this to Mars just so he can get that shot. Get it? We're so going to Mars. And government's not invited. Because nobody tells the truth. Nobody will fix the economy. Nobody cares about the poor. Nobody will end the wars.
Got my vote.
So vote for nobody. Okay? Now this is a campaign. This came from Roberts and Roberts out of Florida. And he all of a sudden I get it in the mail. Drew and I were in the office doing some work. It comes in, he had 2 of these, and I go, oh, that's cool. I held it up like this, one side and the other side like this, and he took a picture and he put it up on Facebook. Immediately it went stupid. I mean, it's one of those viral, I'm like, wow. So I go, oh, I know, send it to me. So I put it on my phone, and there's an economic discussion group that Roy Miller and some of the guys, a lot of the, woo-hoo guys, Cato, people, and Goldwater Institute, all these kind of guys, in this group every month we meet. And, I'm definitely the black dreadlock, sheep there, okay? So what happens is, and Gary's got one there, you know the crowd I'm talking about. So what happens is, and Pal's gone, so what we do is I sent him a picture of that, of everybody that I had cell phone numbers there, I sent the photo. And the whole thing was about, there's a 2-part series the month before and that month, and I refused to go, because their whole concept was, look, scientifically, it's been ruled throughout history that, people need to be ruled. It's just the way it is, And since people need to be ruled, well, we might as well be doing rulers. We should rule. Then I'm going, so I sent this to him, and of course the more anarchist guys are sharing it with everybody, and I started getting texts back, you think you're funny, you're not funny. And I'm going, wow, man, this hits them here. There is, I wanted to take the time, because I want to eat. I'm going to put up a video and I wanted you guys to watch this. It is a campaign for voting for nobody. We got a microphone. Yeah, there. Now, the whole point of this, we are going to listen to one of the best arguments that I've heard for not voting. And it was done by a guy named James Babb out of Philadelphia. Now, you may remember him from We Won't Fly. Okay, WeWon'tFly.com. They're all protesting at the airports and so on, and won't be searched, and they're wearing kilts without underwear and going through, and, you know. Yeah, go up till you feel resistance. Okay, so this is, so we're having fun with this. In the magazine, we put this up, and it was like we're telling the planet all the fun that we're having. What?
Your computer.
That was the podium.
Still your computer.
I'll get to it.
Okay. Now we're talking about, here's all the different articles, blah, 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 blah. And Donna put up there, we're just having fun. Now we're going to talk about this proposition. Jim Iannuzzo is from the Libertarian Party here. And Michael couldn't make it, so Kilsky. And he wants to talk about this proposition that's coming up, and it's a big deal. I had Christina Tobin on the show Friday. 2 days before, Zach Carter, both of them, Zach Carter's kind of with the Levolution and so on, was working with Christina from freeandequal.org, which all about, free and equal ballot access candidate thing. They're the ones that put on the third-party debate that Larry King moderated. Okay? So Larry King is there moderating this debate, along with him from Fair and Equal. Now, she understands libertarian philosophy. Her father ran as a libertarian in the late 90s. This is how she became aware of all this stuff. She's all angry and pent up and got, the election law is bad. I'm like, you figured that out? So what happened is she got a lot of it, Al Jazeera from, Arabia is broadcasting the debate live. You have this one Monday is between the Green Party, Jill Stein, or whatever her name is, and Gary Johnson. The four that did before, they were the two that came to the front. So they're going on Monday night. Remember the 5th of November, because that is when they're doing the third-party debate that is on Russia Today, RT.com. Now Putin and KGB are just laughing their ass off, going, Russian-funded government into, our network with, good-looking babes. It's always the good-looking women. That's attractive up there and saying, let's tell you all the truth, because the truth hurts. And how do they know that? Because Voice of America is exactly what we did to the Eastern Bloc for decades. We're going to the people. Oh, your people are messed up like polio, and this is why, and so on and so on. They go, why, you are correct. This is the truth. Well, Russia Today is now doing the same thing to us. I'm going, how ironic is this? The difference is that people are starting to bypass all this governmental crap. I don't care who does whatever. They vet truth amongst themselves throughout the social networking. If you got Facebook in 3 months' time, all of a sudden you're a libertarian, all right? This entire younger generation is coming through with this stuff, and all this other crap doesn't matter. Now, Christina came in. She came and spoke at the Goldwater Institute a few weeks ago, and big time against 121. Now, you guys, those of you that were here may remember about a year and a half ago, Ted Downing, a senator from Tucson, came in and talked about, we got to do this, and this proposition initiative we're going to do in top 2, going to general, all that kind of stuff, and gave his reasons why. The attorneys for that called me. I was on the phone with them for an hour and a half, just railing against them. I go, if you don't address this, and this, there's going to be some independent kind of minded individual kind of thing going to be suing your ass. I'm going to whip you upside the head for being unconstitutional because you didn't address constitutional blah, blah, blah. So they taped that. They watched the meeting that we had here. Their committee went through it. Everything that we said here, everything that I did, they put in this initiative. I didn't even read it until this last week when I was doing this show. All right, fine, I'm going to go. I go to the Secretary of State's page, I click on the link. All right, this was going to be on your ballot. Here's a list of them. Here's the PDF of them. I go over, click, boom, error message. It's not available. So I go, really? I almost made it. I didn't look, I didn't care. La, la, la. Mark's running, all my friends are, la, 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 la. I didn't go look at it. I didn't care. Okay? A week to go. The first click. And you already pissed me off. Okay? Boom, I almost made it 1 week. So I go, are you freaking kidding me? I can't even read the call Secretary of State back number. I happen to have a couple numbers, you know. So I go, hello, you almost made it. It's Ernie. What's up? Yeah, Ernie, how can we help you? This is not available. I'm going to make a big stinking deal, just get you motivated. Boom, there, it's at the top of Freedom's Phoenix. It's going to stay there until you guys fix it, okay? So they call back and they're like, Ernie, we can't figure it out. We know it looks good to us. What's wrong? It was a Firefox thing. They didn't have it for Chrome and IE or something. They still haven't fixed it for Firefox. So I'm going to a web browser. So I'm going, whatever. So I found it somewhere else. I got it up in the flesh. But the point is that if you read this thing, which we will a little bit later, because it's not very long, it's an initiative of a few paragraphs, but it addresses Jim will definitely have his opinion. But I'll tell you why. Christina Tobin and everything, they're saying there has to be a diversity of opinion on the general election ballot. If you have Prop 121 and just the top two go to the general election, like in a city nonpartisan election, like Phoenix or whatever, if you do that, then you won't have, it'll be only Republicans and Democrats forever and always in the general election. And I go, you mean different from now? I mean, I'm getting your point. I mean, so what are you saying? So the thing is that no, they want political welfare in order to guarantee a line in the general election ballot for third parties. They don't care about the rights of the individual. They're looking for the subsidy of the collective. That's their club. Okay? So I'm going, okay, so I understand where this is going. So we're going to have that conversation. Now, Donna put up here, activism in full throttle. Now, what she did, we can just sit here and watch videos all day, but, there's a couple of short ones that are good. You have, Mark, you guys that were here, you got to hear Mark. It's always been a libertarian activist revolution. We took that to Denver National Convention of Libertarians in 08. James Babb did his thing. Babb, want to do that? Pardon me?
Wow, that was that long.
Okay, now a lot of people don't know that Pal Gamble got to do a debate on television. How many of you saw Pal?
I saw Pal in his polo shirt.
Okay. Let's see how much volume we can get out of this.
Very, very
Not my district.
little X-rated.
Yeah, that might be a couple of offensive.
You might want to plug your ears if you're offended.
Skip it in the middle of it a little bit here. Blah, blah, blah.
Good evening and welcome to the special Vote 2012 edition of Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Tonight's show is a debate. We'll hear from candidates running to represent Arizona's 9th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives. 3 candidates are in the race to represent CD9. They are Democrat Keith Sinema, state legislator, Republican Vernon Parker, Governor of Paradise Valley, and Libertarian Paul Gallo. Running for Congress. Each candidate has the opportunity for a 1-minute opening statement. We drew numbers to see who goes first, and that honor goes to Paul Gallo.
I differ from the other 2 candidates because I am not here to rule over you, but to advocate for our personal freedom. I live by a single principle, that it is wrong to initiate force or fraud on others. And I expect everyone else to live by that same standard. That is what the Founding Fathers were trying to give us, a system that maximizes personal liberty and profit and minimizes the cost to optimize our life by providing the freedom to keep and enjoy the fruits of our labor, and not to let a bunch of thugs in fine suits come along and steal from those laborers by rule and confiscation. So tonight is really about the only 2 choices you have. You choosing who rules over you, or you choosing not to participate in that process is initiate force or fraud upon others.
Thank you very much. For the next opening statement, we now turn to Gordon Clark.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you all for tuning in. Democrat, blah, blah, blah. Al-Qaeda, blah, 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 blah. George Bush, blah, blah, blah. I love through photo radars, mayor. Oops, can you come out? Okay, I'm low taxes, bullshit. I love the Patriot Act, blah, 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 blah. Working moms, education, blah, 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 blah. I love the truth on my dog, working with them in public, blah, 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 blah. I will get the prime minister of Israel, blow job for suicide, blah, 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 blah. Wear 2 flag lands because I'm so patriotic, blah, blah, blah. Bases support me, blah, blah, blah. God bless the troops, blah, 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 blah. I ran the nukes, blah, blah, blah. Bomb Iran, blah, blah, blah. I would bomb them before she would. I'm more patriotic, blah, blah, blah. Thank you.
And the final opening statement is from Kirsten Simmons.
Oh, good evening, and thanks so much for having us here this evening. Oh, she's blah, 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 but you can see them in blah, 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 okay, blah, 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 great job, blah, 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 where you going, blah, 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 energy independence, blah, 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 I was so long, had sex with you, go to college, blah, 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 Republican, blah, 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 okay, blah, 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 I am going to with the troops, over with them, blah, 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 already with the goodness, there is no blow jobs, so it's too late, blah, 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 these, blah, Iran, blah, 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 sanctions, blah, 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 I will bite them before you would, blah, 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 I wear a pin on my snatch, because I'm more patriotic, blah, 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 thank you very much.
Final closing statement is from Hal Gallagher.
Another 2 years, you have another opportunity to either vote for a whole bunch of offices or candidates, where one candidate is obviously going to win, and therefore your vote doesn't count, or where an R and a D are both unacceptable, where once again you get to choose between the lesser of 2 evils. Choosing evil is still evil. The only alternative is to choose not to participate in what is a voluntary process. Don't vote. You have better things to do than reaffirm the process where a bunch of thugs get anointed to divvy up your stolen labor in a 60-40 split. The Workers' Party does not need your choice because either candidate is acceptable to them. What they need is your participation and your consent in the anointing. Deny them both by finding better things to do this election.
He did it. Now, he did a good job of this, but there was another one that was it went on longer, but it was, I'll just show you.
You don't need that microphone.
I'll show you the opening. Sorry. James Babb is kind of like, he's like Ernie in Philadelphia, okay? He has his own, kind of like Freedom's Phoenix thing. He's always doing some activism and so on. I have him on the show a lot, and he does such a great job at this. And it's so refreshing to have. He's always got good timing, because he understands, where the meat of the issues are, and it's activism and civil disobedience and on the street. So he made a point of a campaign to run and campaign for nobody. Well, because he was doing that, the guys that heard him on the show this is how this happens. In Pensacola, Florida, they have, Robertson is a metals dealer, and they saw James's thing from Freedom's Phoenix and sent him a bunch of these signs. So they're all over Philadelphia, courtesy of Florida, okay? So this is what he had to say. It was, and you shouldn't watch the whole thing, but it was freaking awesome.
Thank you. My name is James Babb. I am not a candidate for any office, but I'm here to represent a very important campaign. I'd like to thank Bob Small and the other volunteers for inviting me. I think it's about time that somebody unplugged democracy. The patient's been dead for a long time. Nobody can end the wars abroad. Nobody can end the police state at home. Nobody will keep campaign promises, and most importantly, nobody has the right to rule you. So I'm voting for nobody. I think it's safe to say that everyone here has had it with establishment politics. You know the game is rigged. They use extreme measures to keep challenger parties off the ballot. They monopolize the debates whenever possible. The recent Old Party National Convention showed us that even there, the elites have a scripted agenda. The assigned role of the people is merely to sanctify the power that these criminals have seized. The establishment mouthpieces even call it a civic duty to perform this ritual of the state religion. They want us to legitimize our own oppression, cheerfully participating in this rigged game. They even have the audacity to say that non-voters have no right to complain. Well, perhaps it's those that are willing to play the game that have no right to complain. They want us to declare things like, we are free because we vote. We are the government. They use words like we the people to make us think that somehow we are the ones that are bombing children abroad, or we are the ones plundering trillions for the banking cartel. Their system relies on the consent of the governed. So I'm here today to offer the only solution that challenges their power, and that's to withhold consent, refuse to participate in their ridiculous ritual, and attack their illusion of legitimacy by voting for nobody. While the other candidates here are very thoughtful, and we all have certain things in common, the things about them, these guys all have wonderful ideas about how the government should impose its will upon you guys. So the thing that makes me different is I believe that you should run your own life on all issues. Peaceful people should be allowed to do what they want and to be left alone, and no one has the right to initiate force against anyone for any purpose at any time. Thank you.
And now it went from there, and by the end of, now keep in mind, he has, he had the Communist Party this, the Fascist Party whatever, the Third Party of the whatever, and so on. There was a lot of them. It's called Democracy Unplugged. And every month they'll have like debates and this kind of stuff. And it's kind of like, you know, MTV Unplugged, you know, they got the, you know, playing the cookie. Well, that's why he was saying, he goes, it's about time we unplugged democracy, it's been dead. Been an activist with the guy that was in charge of this group that does the speaking thing. It's kind of like a breakfast club, but it's in the evening. And what happened was they worked together, and he goes on to talk about different voting proposals and different, you know, things to make it better and so on. But I tell you what the watershed was. It was two things that happened that, man, it is over. Now, we'll let Tom go ahead and talk about, you know, how we're going to fix the party from the inside. But it was when Rand Paul endorsed Mitt Romney. That was one. When you went to Tampa, okay, we're going to get something out of this, right? You know, I mean, there's a deal or something, you know. Then what happened to all the activists that went in and tried to fix it inside the party in Tampa? You combine those two things, and it was a big, giant middle finger FU to the entire free press, and they're done. So when that happened, then it's like, what? Well, we'll go over to the libertarians. Well, I like Gary Johnson. I mean, he's a good enough guy, but he's advocating, yeah, a little bit of war is okay under certain conditions overseas, and, you know, it's okay to tax you as long as it's a fair tax, you know, kind of thing. And I'm going, you know, you get a national sales tax, you're going to get national and income. I mean, you're going to get a sales tax and income tax. It's happened everywhere across the planet. So I'm going, this is not good. So what's the best way to really, you know, express yourself? Done. Done, done, done. Go back to local. Go. But then the city of Phoenix election, we remember, the Goodcost probably can attest to this, when the city of Phoenix moved it out of the clerk's office, and now all the local communities and everything is counted by the same computers at Maricopa County, which are a problem, yes or no? Yeah. Major, humongous, big, giant, oozing, festering slime problem, okay? And everybody knows it, and nobody will do anything about it. Not to have any power to, but then we file suit, and we, you know, give attention to it. Legislators pass things, they do whatever, and the Goodcost's been in the middle of this thing. So we're going to ask them some things. So I just want you to know that unless somebody can come up with a better, you know, alternative or justification or reason, I'm really going to jump on this voting for nobody thing. I'm going to be a hardcore libertarian, run for city council, mayor of, and kind of whatever, and support people and everything, and F you and still voting into the system. Because it's the only way you're going to have change in it. You must withdraw your consent to be ruled, plundered, stolen from, redistributed, and regulated. If you do not withdraw you are consenting to this entire thing, and bitching after your vote, you're just a sore loser. Because you've been happy if you got what you wanted. It works. My guy got elected. I'm thinking they're going to, sooner or later, they're going to start allowing libertarians and free market guys to get in, whatever, get elected, just so you'll have some kind of legitimacy in the system. Right. But they're so afraid of it that even one guy gets in, it's going to totally jack up their crap. Like Michael Kilsky. We put up the debate with him and Bill Montgomery. Michael Kilsky's making the point, he's going, look, the first thing is to the Constitution, and at least priorities. I'm not going to be prosecuting all these marijuana, dope-smoking, victimless crime people, and whether somebody's selling, renting their body, for, $100 an hour or $200 or $300, depending on how good looking you are, whatever, I don't care about that. There's, rapes and murders and car theft, and there's other stuff we need to be focusing our resources on. No, Bill, no, it's society benefits from, putting dope smokers in jail forever, okay? So I'm just like, wow. These are the kinds of things that they are worried about. Not that, Lord forbid, he actually gets elected. Oh, hell no, okay? Any of you not seen these?
Oh, never seen it.
Yeah, whatever. We'll pass these around. Anybody that hadn't seen them, take one or two. Everybody take one, whatever. This is the kind of emotional thing. When you come out of your trash can, you go put it in, all of a sudden you got this, your trash has been inspected by the man. And you're going, ouch, this is not yuck, man. You get some phone calls to the cops then, okay? So there is a lot of things that we can do to have an impact. Ron Paul just did a video we put up yesterday. He's saying what to expect during an economic collapse. He's talking to the people. All his supporters, anybody. He wants to get on record before it happens. It's going to go. It's not an if, it's a when. And he goes, and when it does, it's going to get really, really bad. And when it gets really, really bad, treat your neighbors. What are you going to look at solutions? How are you going to, what are you going to do? Go in the streets and riot? Government, please print more money and give it to me or something? So I can see where this is going. If we think the solution is just more names or parties on the general election ballot, we have not been paying attention. But who benefits? When this initiative started, Mark Hinkle was national chair of the Libertarian Party at the time. Richard Winger, Ballot Access News, been a ballot access guy for third parties around the country. They were on my case. Ernie, they're gonna. And I said, if they word this right, it's what I've been screaming for 20 years. The government looking at an individual, regardless of party affiliation in some private club, okay, does not get special rights or privileges based on what club he belongs to. I give you an example. As county chairman of the Libertarian Party, I get a CD from them every few months. It used to be big magnetic tapes that you would take to a mailing house, and then they would, take it and repackage it and sell it and do whatever they wanted. So they loved the libertarians bringing in their tapes, okay? So we got all kinds of stuff for free from them. Now the parties go like this, and then we could sell it. We go, all right, you want, Tim remembers this, Tim McDermott, he was county chair for the time and so on. So, you get these big tapes, you go in, they say, you know what? We'll sell it to you. The parties would go, we'll sell you the database for 7 cents a name. Multiply that times millions, okay? 7 cents a name. Now, who would set the price the government would sell it to you at? The parties. And the government will sell it to you for 10 cents a name. Guaranteed 7 cents a name is 30% less, right? So if you're wanting a database of everybody that has your occupation, it has where you live, it has your phone number, it has your mother's maiden name, it has all this information, where do you go to get that? You go to the political parties. The government's going to charge me 10 cents a name. I'm going to go over here to, Republicans get 7 cents. So in the mid-90s when I was chair, I saw this is a taxpayer-funded, derived resource from the government, and I made it free to anybody that wanted it. They just paid for us putting it on a CD or whatever. So you want it, you're a communist candidate, fascist candidate, whatever, don't care, here it is, it's free. Whatever initiative, Becky Finger always doing an initiative, Jeff Singer, all these guys, I just, it's free. Did I make any money on that? No. Did I cost the parties a shitload of money? Yes! Okay? So they were just pissed. If I went as an independent, I'm not affiliated with anything. I run, that was my standing. 1990, I ran right in just to get the standing. I filed the lawsuit July 3rd, 1991. I made oral argument before the Ninth Circuit when I got burned and everything. I'm like, they tried to stop me. You know? And I went and did the thing at the Ninth Circuit, oral arguments. And I stayed at Richard Ringer's house, as a matter of fact. Now, what happened is, Bob Anderson and I flew up there in his plane. Now, what happened is I go, okay, all right, how much is it for me to buy that database as an independent? $250,000. Now, with Prop 121, it says you cannot get special rights or privileges as an individual. You got to pay whatever it costs, do whatever it takes. It's all you're not going to get taxpayer-derived, funding for your campaigns, or it filtered down to who gets benefit from political parties. Hell no, says all the political parties. See my point? They go, no. Libertarians go, no, hell no. We need that for freedom. Okay. It would be better for us to have, we got to have the third parties be able to get the same kind of assets that the Republicans and Democrats are getting. Well, my argument wouldn't get the same as them not get it.
Right.
So all of these issues were addressed in this law. I read it for the first time. Only one time. I'll read it for the second time with you guys here. But I'll tell you, I'm going, wow. Is this, how this thing comes out? Let me go ahead and...
Bill Montgomery is way against this.
Of course they are. Let me tell you what happened. Bill Montgomery calls Barry Hess. Barry will say yes to anything as long as he gets a Christmas card. So, Barry's a good friend, lives near, we hang with him all the time, and he told me, he's done like, Barry, whatever, whatever. So what he did, I'm like, you're still voting? Okay, you'll see that a lot in the future, I guarantee it. So we talk about this. Now, the Libertarian Statement of Principles. We, the members of the Libertarian Party, challenge the cult of the omnipotent state and defend the rights of the individual. We hold that all individuals have the right to exercise sole dominion over their own lives and have the right to live in whatever manner they choose, so long as they do not forcibly interfere with the equal rights of others to live in whatever manner they choose. Governments throughout history have always done blah, 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 blah. What's the purpose of the Libertarian Party? Individual, not Libertarian Party. But over the decades, that has changed, and here we go. Gary Johnson is going to announce that he's going to run in 2016. Cool. I'd be better than not, But what's behind the whole thing? They need this party thing. Why? Federal matching funds. Once the Libertarian Party gets on the tip of the federal government and the matching funds, which in 1996, a bunch of us did everything. Tim remembers this. We were heavy with Rick Tompkins against Harry Brown for that one single reason. And in Washington 1996 National Convention, before we finally got Harry Brown to say, I won't take federal matching funds. And it was only after the entire convention, will you remember this? Pounding on the table. He wouldn't say, well, read my book and read my book and read my book. Pounding on the table. Say it! Say it! Say it! Say it for like 2-3 minutes.
Wow.
And finally here, I will not take federal matching funds. Yay! We were done. Let's go party. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. That was what the whole thing was about. And we saved the Libertarian Party for another decade. But I'm telling you, in 2016, they're going to do everything. You'll hear all the euphemisms. They'll go, this is what I heard a lot. Well, if you're fighting the redcoats and you got to use his tools against him, and if you shoot him and his musket's laying there, then you got to go pick it up and use it against him, kind of thing. Okay? So you're going to hear all of this, how it's important to save and fund through taxation the parties. So this is what came up, and it's why I'm so it's why I ran for national chair 4 times for just this reason. Because I knew this was coming. The way the state primary was before is that what it did is it said direct primary. It meant, just like the city council race, that the only way your name could appear on the general election ballot was if you had gone through the direct primary, then you qualified for the general as a top 2. Twice as many were in office. If there was 2 House representatives, you'd have 4 candidates. Okay? If you had a state senator, you have 2 candidates. Well, it never addressed parties until the late 70s. I'll tell you the history. It was after Watergate. Watergate happens, and all of a sudden, all the private funding to political parties went away. Their conventions, all the corporate, whatever, they just said, government sucks. It's like now. Get the feeling. You're giving a whole bunch of money to the Republican or Democrat parties now, are you? Okay? Well, back in the day, people used to. They would do for whatever reason. That went away. There was it was District 10 at the time in Tucson. There was a guy named Steve, whatever it was. And he ran and won as the only, he was young, he was only in his 20s. He was the only Republican to unseat an incumbent Democrat at the time. And he gets in, and he was, all vim and vinegar and kind of freedom and all that kind of stuff, the first election after Watergate. And he says, man, this thing sucks. As a Republican incumbent, he registered Libertarian in like 74 or something. Libertarian who? So he registers Libertarian, but they didn't have ballot status or anything, so he ran as an independent in the following election. When he runs, there's 3 races. He came in second, and he lost by less than 1,000. Oh, they saw the serfs climbing over the walls then. They said, hell no. This is where Jane Hull and Bill Hart and a lot of the old legislators from back in the 70s, that's where they came from and how they got their endorsement to go be governor and stuff, okay? Because I researched this. I mean, I went trust me, I know, okay? So I talked to these guys, and I remember Bill Hart, he was a legislator from Globe. I called him on 4th of July, 1989 or 90 or something. And I asked him, I met him before. I go, you got to help me out here. I found out this law, you took the entire Title 16 election law, threw it in the trash, and totally rewrote it. And I go, why did you do that? And he goes, well, to get rid of the third parties. You know what I mean? Oh.
Freedom.
What was it called? It was called the Anti-Communist Party legislation. It was to Arizona law right now. It is illegal to have a communist party. So what they do? They made the left jackboot and the right jackboot of the We Rule You party. Okay, the 2-party system. That's where that came from. So to thwart the Communist Party, they took and brought the Republicans and Democrats as parties of the state. They funded their primaries. They funded the election of the precinct committeemen. They funded their databases. They funded. Okay? So now the parties are parties of the state. I go, okay, I get it. So I filed suit in 91. All of this stuff. 10 years is nothing to these guys. They're like, damn it, freaking who the hell is this guy? Okay? So I'm being a pain in the ass, whatever. I saw what they did. It was 44 laws. I mean, that was so blatantly obvious that they were giving advantages and taxpayer money to party membership. It's like if I belong to the JCs or the Kiwanis Club, all of a sudden now I got extra stuff. Very concept. The only people that understood what I was doing and why was a portion of the Libertarian Party, who happened to be county and state chairs at the time. Rick Tompkins, Mike Duggar, Tim, Gary Fallon, all these. They go, no, we understand exactly what you're doing. Now, Peter Schmerl and these guys down in Tucson, they're going, damn it, Ernie, you're going to mess up our thing, man. We're part of the thing now. We can close the door behind us and screw all y'all. Ha, 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 ha. Because we don't care about this, defense of individual rights anymore. Now that the party's one of them. See the attitude? So I see this coming. Ooh, it's what angers me, man. Ooh. That's why she'd have left Arizona alone. They wouldn't have had me to deal with. So then they do this initiative, and this is all the things that I brought up. They got my summary judgment that I did. I sent them that. Here's all the arguments. Here's the laws that they had. Here's my argument against it. Here's the tape. Here was the discussion we had here. All of that. They took all that, and they said, yeah. And there were challenges against this in Washington and California, because they've done this top 2. You don't hear about individual rights or equal, getting on the ballot, or any of that stuff for individual candidates. No. They killed the third parties. They killed the libertarians. There's no Libertarian Party in the Wallace State because of this. I'm going, really? And how many candidates are they running now? How much money do they put in it now? How much do they take advantage of this ballot status now? They don't. Hell, I got to beg Mark Victor to run at the last minute to write-in to even be a candidate, only because some Democrat didn't make it because she changed Democrat on her petition to Libertarians because she didn't have enough as a Democrat. I'm just going, don't even start with me about how much you're going to use ballot status. You use libertarian philosophy. And if that's not your weapon, you already lost before you start. So I'm going, okay. So let's go over this real quick. Applicability. This section shall apply to all the elections and everywhere and always and whatever. Rights of voters. All qualified voters shall be guaranteed to vote for a qualified candidate of their choice in all elections, no matter no voter shall be denied the right of the vote, qualified elected, a candidate, or his or her choice in the primary or general election based upon his or her party affiliation or lack thereof. Voters shall be permitted to state their party preference, if any, in their own words on their voter registration form and shall not be limited to selecting from a list of recognized parties or affiliations. You get to write whatever the hell you want. Now, this is another thing. The state controls who gets to be a party. Let me tell you where this came in. Voter registration forms. You put on there and you go party preference, Republican, Democrat. It actually printed it on there. We made a big stink. That's part of my lawsuit. Then when the Libertarians got ballot status, go fine. They put Republican, Democrat, Libertarian. No, we'll just take all the parties off. For about a year and a half. Then they put Republican and Democrat back on. This is how they work, okay? Someone might be, you know, green libertarian fascist or something, you know what? You have to have 5 people. And this is, you know, oh man, go on and on about this. But you go in and you meet in the Phoenix address. You had to go in Phoenix, it had to be Phoenix, the capital city of whatever, because they said, you go into Phoenix, you have a chair, a vice chair, a treasurer, a secretary, and a member at large or something like that. There's 5 people. Then you can submit the paperwork to the Secretary of State's office and say, we want a party. Okay.
2 vice chairs.
Oh, 2 vice chairs. So what they did is we go, all right, you want to use this against them? I'll show you how you use it against them. When they were going after all the adult clubs, the owners of the Penthouse Club over on I-17, I can't remember what it was called. Maybe I don't. But anyway, over there, they had a meeting. I had a meeting downtown, lobbyists, you know, whatever. They wanted to know. And I go, we're not going to be able to do anything for you. I go, let me tell you how you do this. To be a state party, you can get ballot status. We're talking about doing this for Second Amendment. Say Second Amendment is for everyone. We just go, all right, who wants to be in the Second Amendment party? About a billion people. How many do you need? I don't know, what is it, Jim? Like 15,000 registrations, something like that? 15,000 people. I go, this is what the adult entertainment industry came up with to get the county attorneys off their ass. This is what happened. I go, here's the plan. And they had a guy, they worked it all up. They go, all right, we're going to be the tourism and entertainment party. Okay? Now, how long would it take strippers on a weekend to get them to sign a petition or voter registration to be part of their party? Sign right here.
It's the middle syllable.
A weekend, okay? So the thing is that they go, yeah, we're just going to run our own candidates and we'll get, whoa, 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 it's all good, man. We're not bothering you anymore. Y'all have pace, okay? I go, yeah, that's how it works. You want to do this party thing? I'll shove it up your butt. So now they're kind of like, yeah, you know, we always got that to wield. But the thing is, I'm going, all right, as an individual, do I have to belong to a particular party in order to participate in the election? Yes, you had to be Republican and Democrat to participate in the primary because that was only the ones that were able to run. Now, as an independent candidate, I had 9.5 days because they only wanted to give you 1 weekend, okay? 9.5 days to get the signatures to get on the general election ballot, twice as many signatures as it took the Republicans or Democrats to get on the ballot, and they had months. Oh, gee, I wonder if that's a 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause violation, okay? So I'm going, all right, so then they changed it. Here comes Paul Johnson and Grant Woods, Democrat mayor of Phoenix, the Republican attorney general. They come in and say, oh, no, the parties, they have to let independents vote in their primary to keep the funding to the parties. That was the only reason they did this. Because in my lawsuit, I'm going, how is it that as an independent, I only get the choices from the political parties to vote for in the general? Oh, and by the way, I'm paying for their primary to select the candidates that I get to pick from? How is that not taxation without representation? Damn it, man, I hate when Ernie brings this shit up. Okay? So then they're going, okay, we're going to, independents get to vote in the primaries. Well, now you got 350,000 independents at the time voting in a party of 20,000 libertarians, selecting their precinct committeemen, their officers, and their candidates. There's the death of the Libertarian Party right there. Libertarian Party kind of, yeah, well, you know, it's we get to be a party and we get our goodies. Don't you get it? I mean, don't you feel that you're not a party? It's not voluntary association. It's not a private club anymore. It's philosophy. And you're willing to sell your freaking soul so you can get that database. Piss me off. We file suit. It goes to the Ninth Circuit. They say you win. It goes back to the states. It's still sitting there for years. Nobody knows resolution to this. Do you even know what happened to that suit, Jim?
Which one's that, the Ninth Circuit?
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually, that's what they're using right now. We tried to open up the primaries this time around, and they said we couldn't do it. They threw me off the ballot because I collected independent signatures. I was running for Arizona's Senate. I collected independent signatures. The Republicans challenged my signatures, threw me off the ballot. Yeah, I got thrown off. I turned around, ran as a write-in for the House, and got back on the ballot. So it didn't do them any good. But they're using that suit to throw us off the ballot.
Well, they should. Okay, let me tell you what happened. In 1994, we had no challengers. They were saying, no, you can't have independents vote in your primary. Now, it's our primary. The point we were making is that we decide who gets to vote in our primary. Is it our primary or is it not our primary? Are we just a functionary of the state? What is it? So in 1994, we had no offices that were challenged by libertarians. It was just a libertarian up there. So anybody vote and don't vote didn't matter. We're going to be on the ballot anyway. So as county chairman, and Rick Tompkins is state chair, we went into county elections and we said, we're going to allow independents to vote in our primary. Well, the law said we don't care. Because we wanted to challenge, is it our party or not? And they go, okay. 1994, independents voted in our primary. Why? Because we said they could. They didn't want to take this challenge on. So later, when they said, okay, well, libertarians aren't on board, we're going to have independents voting in the primary. We go, no, they can't. Well, you let them last time, yeah, but that was then. Is it our party or not? We hate them damn libertarians. Because we're arguing the principle. You see my point? If you argue, you always win in the long run. If you're trying to do short-term game, you're going to lose, I guarantee it, Tim.
Okay, we let independents vote in our primary until they changed the laws to allow independents to vote in the Democrat and Republican primary. Then we tried to close it.
Right.
Piss them off again.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, now, let's see. Procure for offices to which this section applies, an open primary election shall be conducted to select the candidates who compete in the general election. All registered voters may vote in the open primary election for any qualified candidate, provided that the voter is otherwise qualified to vote for candidates for the office in question. The two candidates who receive the most votes in the primary shall compete in the general election, except that for any office to which more than one candidate will be elected, the number of candidates will be doubled, you know, like the House thing. This section does not prohibit write-in voting in either primary or general, okay? So me, all I care about is putting up signs. So I don't give a crap what they do. I'll wait until it's the general election time. I'm a write-in candidate. I got signs everywhere. I don't give a crap. You know? So I ain't never going away. I don't care what they do. Let's go to filing requirement. Okay, this is where they're starting to freak out because they don't even know what, you know, how much it's going to take. All candidates wishing to run an elective office to which this section applies shall file with the appropriate elections office petitions containing the signatures. It'll all be the same and equal in how you get on the primary. Rights of candidates. At the time they file to run for public office, every candidate shall have the choice to declare his or her party preference, if any, as it is stated on their voter registration form. Up to a maximum of 20 characters. I can be creative with 20 characters, okay? That party preference, if any, shall appear on the candidate's nominating petitions and on the primary election ballots using the phrase registered as. On the ballots, the words registered as may be used in a heading or other prefatory text rather than being related next to the party preference of each candidate, so long as the words registered as remains prominently stated and clear to the reader. If no party preference is stated on the candidate's voter registration form, then no designation shall appear on the nominee petitions or ballot with the candidate's name. So whatever you register as is what it's going to be. Ballot language. Okay, this is all there is to it. In all government-issued voter education materials that contain a list of candidates standing for election or every primary and general election ballot, the following language shall be prominently displayed. The party registration, if any, stated with the candidate's names on the ballot, is not an indication that a candidate has been nominated or endorsed by that party, but only reflects the party registration, if any, of the candidate, okay? They can say whatever they want to be, because there isn't really a party thing anymore. But there can be political parties. Rights of political parties. Now, this is the thing that was sticky. And I told them, I said, look, the First Amendment right of association has to be protected. I can, you know, combine with any and everybody to do whatever the heck I want as a political group or something. You don't protect that, it's not constitutional. Nothing in this section shall restrict the right of individuals to join or organize into political parties or in any way restrict the right of private association of political parties. Nothing in this section shall restrict the parties' rights to contribute to, endorse, or otherwise support or oppose candidates for elective office. Political parties may establish such procedures as they see fit to elect party officers, endorse or support candidates, or otherwise participate in all elections. but no such procedures shall be paid for or subsidized using public funds. And that is where the opposition is coming from. Because now the parties have to actually work. They want to endorse, they want to go do something, they want to put in signs, they got to actually work. Because now, what they give an advantage to a candidate is any and everybody that can just show up and register as libertarian, boom, you got ballot status and I'm here. There's no philosophical thing involved in this. You know, that's the problem. Level playing field. All qualified voters in Canada shall be treated equally by statutes and regulations governing elections regardless of their party affiliation or lack thereof. To the extent that any privileges or procedures are made available to candidates or political parties, they shall be made equally available to all candidates or political parties regardless of party affiliation, recognition, or lack thereof. And I'm telling you what that means is going to be, what do you call it, clean elections, campaign funds. But they're not going to want to do away with that. So what are they going to do? They're going to make it equally available to everybody. So now we're into this free and equal thing. So why would Christina Tobin come in free and equal and be in opposition to this? Because this whole thing, really, the opposition to this thing is because there is an elimination of subsidy to political parties. Now, are they going to bastardize and bitch us up and runs and rules everything? Of course. I mean, that's the point I'm making. I'm going, if you want to get power and money out of politics, you got to get the power out of politics. If I have the power to do contracts or give tax breaks or provide whatever, here comes the money. I guarantee it. You must address that. Political, and they go, well, if you do this, the political parties will lose all of their power, and the power will go to the special interests in the corporations.
Like they are already.
Exactly. I'm going, where the hell you been? So now I'm going to go ahead and let Jim try and top that. Because they'll talk about all the stuff that it does. It's going to this and it's going to that. And it's so easy for me. When I read this straight through the first time, I go, hell, this is what I was screaming for 15 years ago. It's one thing I'm looking for. How is the individual treated under the law? Period. Now you got to take into account, can I do a political party thing? Can I associate and advocate for and do it? Sure. Jim Iannuso.
Except for president.
So has this been the argument in favor of voting for that?
I'm not arguing you voting.
Ernie doesn't vote.
I just, yeah, please.
Okay, hi, I'm Jim Iannuso. Is this on?
Yeah, thanks.
I'm Jim Iannuso. I'm the county chairman for the Libertarian Party. Ernie said a lot of things, and as he always does, and I took a few notes, and I stopped taking notes because there's too much to address. But one of the things I want to address is, and I agree with Ernie, there are certain fundamental things that we have to be really strong on. One is principle. The idea of self-ownership, the idea of non-initiation of force. If you lose that, if you don't argue those principles, and most people don't, most people eventually, what happens is either you get bought off, there's individuals that get bought off by government all the time, get bought off by political parties, or there's individuals that are afraid to argue those principles. So either you believe that there's certain principles that you have to stand on, or you don't. I mean, it comes down to that. The question I ask every candidate who runs as a libertarian, the first question is taxation theft? Some people look at me like, well, in most cases, well, that's not arguing principle. That's basically, you don't get it. If you say there are some cases where you can tax and it's okay, you're not a libertarian. I mean, you're something else, but you're not a libertarian. So Ernie mentioned Gary Johnson, and I was up at the National Convention. I was a delegate. I didn't vote for Gary Johnson because of his position on the fair tax. He's a very nice guy. I talked to Gary for a while. But what we were able to do up there is throw out the entire slate. All the officers that wanted to run, I'm thinking you were there, I think, weren't you? No, okay. All the officers that wanted to run stood up there, and they got thrown out. And the reason they got thrown out is because they wanted to centralize power in Washington at the headquarters. And most of the delegates there said no to that. As a matter of fact, we even called Ernie up and said, you want to run for chair? So it's one of these things where within any group of people, I think you're going to have some range of...
yeah, because NODA won, none of the above.
NODA, and that's another thing I want to talk about too. I'm glad you brought that up. But in any group you're going to have a range of opinion, but I always start with a question. I hope you guys would too. And I can ask you, and I don't know. I mean, is there anybody here who thinks taxation is not theft? Okay, there's a few people that think taxation is not theft.
Can I, if it's a consensual thing.
There you go. You're a Republican. You're Mitt Romney's guy. Yeah, go ahead.
Like a usury tax on certain things that
Yeah, but if you believe in freedom, you believe in individuals making choice. Competition association, as Ernie said, our 9th district. Yeah, Paul.
It's a voluntary tax.
Yeah, voluntary tax. Go ahead, send it in if you want. I don't care. But if there's force that's used, and you know, that's the thing. People say there ought to be a law. There should have been a law. We could have done this. But you have to put the linkage together. At the end of it, there's somebody holding a gun to your head if there's a law. And if taxation is implemented, there's going to be somebody at the end of the line holding a gun to your head to pay. So you have to start on principle. Now, the other stuff is all a bunch of nonsense. Political parties and all that, I view that as being secondary. But Ernie brought up a good point just now where he said NOTA. I think the single most important thing to really throw a monkey wrench into the system, because that's what I'm all about as county chairman, is throwing monkey wrenches in the system. But acting like a virus, we don't have the strength. They've got a lot more guns. I don't care what anybody says. At the end of the day, if the system gets challenged, the guns come out. That's the way it is. And if you don't believe that, just look at all the countries around the world where that has happened. The guns come out at the end if you challenge the system seriously. So you have to be a virus, because a virus takes down big things, because a virus multiplies. So you have to be that. So I think NOTA, if there's anything we could do, NOTA would be a good start, because if it was a binding NOTA, meaning it was on the ballot, and NOTA was binding, you just threw the slate of people out if NOTA won. That's what we did up at the convention in Las Vegas, and they were getting so frustrated, the officers, the national, I mean, I'm a county officer, but they were getting so frustrated at the National Party that they were trying to do everything. They were trying to say, well, you know, the vote was wrong, let's take the vote over again. They kept losing every single time till eventually, and that's what happened. So NOTA, I think, is a powerful tool. This other stuff, Proposition 121, I'm against it for certain reasons, but I think it's nonsense. I think it's smoke and mirrors. There's other things going on behind the scenes, and I think most ballot propositions are like that. But I would definitely like to see NOTA up there, because I can pretty much guarantee you people would vote for NOTA. And if it was binding, you throw a monkey wrench in the whole system. Forget about political parties. It throws a monkey wrench in the whole system at that point. But anyways, like I mentioned, Gary Johnson, I think he's a nice guy, but yeah, he believes in the fair tax. He's not a libertarian. There's no doubt about it. One thing I want to mention real quick too, I took a note on, is we don't sell the voter data in Maricopa County. I've been county chairman for a long time, and we don't sell the voter data. As a matter of fact, we don't give the voter data out. There is personal information in there. People could request it for political purposes, but it's not a policy of the party to go around and just distribute the data. I know what Ernie was doing with the data. He was creating noise so people would realize what's going on. But I think what that does is that just makes them write more statutes. And the more statutes they write, the more nonsense there is out there for somebody to get in trouble and go to jail. So I think the voter data by itself is problematic, and the more it gets distributed, I think it's problematic too. Okay, I've got some stuff I want to pass out here on Prop 121. I don't have enough copies for everybody. So if you could kind of share them, I think I've got about 30 copies here.
Pick up the top 2 best arguments for it. I mean, against it or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so let me just tell you a little bit about what Prop 121 was modeled on. It's modeled on California, Louisiana, and Washington State, I believe, are the 3 other states. Oregon had it, I believe they threw it out. In Louisiana, where Prop 121, the top 2 system, has been in place for quite a while. They took it out and they brought it back. There's never been an incumbent politician at the federal level who's ever lost in Louisiana when they were seeking re-election. As a matter of fact, that got Jefferson. I don't know if you remember that William Jefferson, the cash in the refrigerator. Yeah. He won re-election after the FBI had raided his house and found the cash under this system, this top 2 system. Because what top 2 is not a system to play with political parties. It's a system to ensure incumbents get re-elected. Simple as that. That's all it is. It's an incumbent protection plan. There's no politician who wouldn't love being re-elected, because power makes them crazy, and that's what it's about. So you can say it's about throwing third parties out. Yeah, it is. That's part of it. But it's really about protecting your turf. So the top argument I would make against Prop 121 is that it's an incumbent protection plan. I agree with Ernie, and I go through a little bit of an analysis here, but I agree with Ernie that it eliminates the taxpayer-funded party primaries, which is a good thing, but it replaces it with a taxpayer jungle primary. What the hell's the difference? It's going to cost the same amount of money. The Libertarian Party, we don't have presidential preference elections in the Libertarian Party. We can. We have ballot status. We're allowed to do that. We decided a while ago to do everything ourselves. And county elections told me that we saved the state $1 million by not having a presidential preference election. I was amazed. $1 million for, what, 15 or 20,000 registered voters? It was crazy. So there's ways you can just opt out. Just opt out of it and have voluntary association. And forget the nonsense that's going on with the government, with political parties. But anyways, like I said, the first thing basically would be that incumbents are protected. The second thing is, it is good in the fact that taxpayer-funded primaries are eliminated. And it's also good that it brings attention to a bad election system. And I want to say something else that Ernie didn't say, but I think he would say, is that the problem, I mean, that's the problem. When 50.1% of the people can vote away the rights from 49.9, that's the problem. All this other stuff is nonsense. If there's not a focus on the principles of individual rights, this means nothing. This is just playing games with the system. So the fundamental problem isn't the political systems, the political parties, the special interests. The fundamental system is democracy. And people that believe democracy somehow ensures rights, it doesn't. It doesn't ensure your rights. On the back of this page here, if you just look at this real quick, I just want to give you guys kind of a certain scenario of what Paul Johnson, who's the primary sponsor, used to be the mayor of Phoenix, and Ted Downey, who was a senator from senator or congressman or representative from Tucson. They put this together with a lot of funding from. You got to look at the money too. That's the other thing before I go into how this works. You got to look at where the money's coming from. Paul Johnson, I don't know, what Paul Johnson does. They called him the boy wonder when he was mayor. Do you remember that? Paul Johnson is a real estate developer, but not in the not in the classic sense of buying and selling homes and doing things like that. He buys infill. He buys corner lots that have been abandoned. He buys land near where canals are going to go. I mean, he does stuff like that. He was able to convince some investors in New York at around 2008, sort of when the market crashed, that they should be investing in Phoenix, and got somewhere around $500 million from them. And he decided that it would be a good idea to start buying up all this infill. Now, I have a friend of mine who's a real estate agent here locally, okay, and he gave me a little bit of background on what's going on. But you have to say, why is Paul Johnson investing so much of his own money in Prop 121? He's put $150,000 into it of his own money. He's got a lot of money from the unions. He's got a lot of money from the Professional Firefighters Union, I think gave $100,000. Walmart gave $100,000. What, does Walmart need a lot someplace? I mean, there's something else going on here, and you got to. Something stinks here and doesn't smell quite right. One of the things Prop 121 will do, and I'm going to speed up here a little bit. So if anybody's got a question at the end, I'm going to let you guys ask a question. But on the back, I've got a Nolan chart there, and it's kind of hard to see. But basically, candidates that run now run all over the spectrum. You might have some really liberal Democrats, let's say, some really conservative Republicans, some libertarians, and maybe a socialist, a communist, a green, someplace in there. Okay. And what happens now is during the primary process, a libertarian comes out, a green comes out, a Democrat comes out, a Republican comes out. They all go to the general election. Guys like Powell will get up, give his opening and closing remarks. Everybody else goes blah, 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 blah. And Powell is able to change the hearts and minds of 1, 2, 5, 10, 100 people. I don't know. Some people because he's on the stage. And that's the only way we can really make this change without violence, I think. So I don't think the powers that be like that. They want a filter. And the second chart shows a filter. They want centrist candidates. They want to eliminate the fringe. They don't want Powell up on stage. They don't want Kilsky up on stage. Okay? They didn't want me up on stage. They challenged my status. They want to get rid of the fringe candidates and only focus on the centrist candidates. And I think this is where it gets back to Paul Johnson. If you can put centrist candidates into place, when you go for things like permits and changes to zoning, it's probably a lot easier. You're only worried about two people, the challenger and the incumbent. A lot easier to control. And I think this is all about control. That's all it is. It's not about making independents have more rights. It's It's not about making anybody better. It's about controlling the system more, and that's what it really comes down to. So 2 points I just wanted to end on. Always stand on principle. Get the nonsense there. And when somebody brings something up, the great ballot proposition, vote no if you don't know, because the devil's in the details. And I think there's a lot of details here. If you look at the other states that have implemented it, it's all been to protect incumbents, and that's what's happened.
You know, the issue about, Frank, go ahead and come on up.
Yeah, we don't need your microphone. It's kind of not
The one thing that I did ask about the money, and the reason I wouldn't have anything to do with this, you know, they had nice little pretty carrots and everything for me, but I'm like, no. And I said, I'll talk to you guys, I'll tape, we'll do the conversation attorneys, whatever, you know, get the best thing out of here. But the problem is that I'm going, who benefits from this? You know, if we vote, man, I just need to know who benefits. Well, Ted Downing is coming on the show about that very thing. They're all open about, yeah, this guy for that, and they're going to benefit from and everything, and he's right, it's a centrist thing. They want to get rid of the, you know, we want to ship every immigrant away, and we want to fund every immigrant, and all that kind of stuff. We want to get to, you know, kind of this more centrist thing. Fine, I'm all about moving to center. That's what we do, okay? But the problem is, I'm going, what about the other side? Who is the money in opposition to? Where's that coming from? It's secret. They did this Karl Rove PAC due donator kind of something they can't find out. They've been suing and all this other stuff, trying to find out who's the big money behind this. Because we're not talking 100,000, 200,000, we're talking millions, okay? Who is the money behind it? We're going to find out, but it'll be after the election and so on. And then you'll know. I don't know, don't care. I look at the text.
You mentioned centrist. I'm not a political scientist. But in my mind, it's not a matter of centrist. Most people.
Me neither. Individual rights, Don.
Who's got the big money?
Individual rights, Don. Individual rights, Don. Individual rights. That's all I can look at. I don't care.
So it's a matter of who can brainwash through
the individual right people. Fine, as long as they're not violating their individual rights. Watch me. All you think you can get away with.
I don't know what you're saying, but I'm trying to say it's not a matter of centrist, whatever. Isn't it more the idea who's got the big bank account that can finance a brainwashing scheme to get people in?
As long as they can brainwash me and I retain my individual rights, and it's my fault for being stupid, not them for taking away my opportunities. You understand the difference? If we're too stupid to make the right decision, it's our problem. If we're being denied that decision, then we got an enemy out here. I want to deal with the enemy in here. You know, if I got to deal with them, the purpose of government is the defense of individual rights. If they get outside of that, then you got a whole other issue. That's why I focus on it. And that's why the Libertarian Party had the mission statement of that. We defend individual rights and challenge the cult, this worship of the omnipotent, this all-powerful, all-knowing state. That was written in the early 70s. You know, the worship of all-powerful, all-knowing state. Are we close to that yet?
Yep. So then if we're
not going to be able to talk about this right now. We're going to get to Frank.
So if we vote for none of the above, then
I don't care. Don't vote.
We opt out from the system, is what you're saying? If we don't vote for anybody, we're not under it?
Oh, no, they know I'm around.
We're still under
it. They know I'm around. Anybody not know I'm around?
So if we don't vote, we're still under the system.
You're not bowing to the state.
Go ahead, Frank.
No, you're still under the
You're not bowing.
I'm not going to speak much. Sorry. You good with that in the back?
17 minutes.
All right, I don't think I'm swapping. So I'm not going to speak as much about the problem. More, I wrote an article that kind of essay in the New Journal. Thank you for mainly
not now! Excuse us while you interrupt.
I'm not a libertarian. I have a little problem with it.
You're bowing to the state.
So I'll probably put another spin to some of this here. I was asked to watch. I'm writing this essay to it, talking about basically the quandary many people in the Patriot movement have, which is about what to do with our vote if you're going to vote at all. The options seem to be either not vote at all, which of course I respect for people who don't. At the same time, write in Ron Paul's name, or do a Democrat Republican, get scared into a last minute Romney in swing states, or vote for a third party. So I made a little kind of a summary about that, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. More of an argument for voting, and more specifically voting for third party candidate, mainly for Gary Johnson. Now I'm not going to say a proponent for Gary Johnson, but more of a strategy about it. And some points that some of you know, maybe perhaps not. I've been fighting this for a while. Although I have to say, in the last of the hour here, I'm thinking about maybe not voting, so I should just take this and go home. First, a couple things offhand. The Nolan chart is my fancy iPad, but Nolan chart program app. You can sit there every time I talk to someone, I just pull it up. They just answer the questions, and the little computer graphic goes bzzz, and it sits there, and they can show it, and of course email right to their house, right to their email. So this is very, very helpful to get that point across. I think ultimately, Nolan graph, I think, is the most political mileage out there, when you basically kind of symbolize or explain to people who think they're centrist, who go back and forth, left to right, they vote a Democrat and a Republican, they don't know why. They tend to be libertarian in philosophy, right? Which in essence is you want government out of the bedroom, but you're also consistent, you want government out of your wallet. And that seems to be really what centrists do. They go back and forth, libertarian philosophy. And so without bringing up the parties to them off, the libertarian philosophy, often the Nolan chart can bring that up. So points here about what I would say are reasons to vote. First of all, I want to say that I do respect, of course, people who don't, and ironically, someone like Ernie Hancock, who was kind of the leader of still voting. I always love that bumper sticker, and the irony is, it's work from someone like Ernie and others here that have probably created more people voting than most of the people out there, right? I can't count how many people, young people, have come to his house at his parties who, for the first time, got involved, engaged, now are libertarian, or Gary Johnson or something, getting that involved. So voting, I think, really is I think it's a true strategy that we need to do. I understand the frustration. My issue too is you need the free minds, right? I'll talk about this often as well. You need the free minds, and by not voting, that change is not going to be felt. Okay, these changes are not going to be felt out there if you don't have a number out there. You know, V, right? We've seen the movie V. At the very end of the movie, people are showing up with that mask, right? They're giving out these masks. And you know, you see these cowards, so to speak, not people in this room who tend to be real freedom thinkers and forward thinkers, but many people are afraid to sit back. They're wondering if someone else is going to take the first step, obviously, right? That's why most people say, well, I'm not going to vote a third party because they can't win. I mean, how many of you have heard this before? And if every person who says they can't win would turn around and vote the third party, you know, we'd have actually some numbers there. So in essence, by having with that mask, putting that mask on, looking around, seeing if anyone else is going to put that on, is I think what voting will do for a third party. Bottom line is, I'll get to some other points here, but ultimately, I focus in urology. I'm a doctor, at least I play doctor sometimes. I use rubber gloves all the time and do finger exams. I love to give one to the establishment by essentially an extra lube, and I mean this because what I want to be able to do is to be able to have Mitt Romney, which is the selection, and if he loses, I want him to lose with a smaller percentage point than what Gary Johnson or Jill Stein will do together, okay, or even Gary Johnson. To have our numbers as a third party, that percentage be greater than Mitt Romney's loss, will send shockwaves to them, and not to mention the average voter, that there is a movement out there, that your vote can make a difference. Now, I'm not obtuse at all to the corruption involved. As Ernie knows myself, I'm involved in this for a long time, since the 80s. Gosh knows, ballot access laws, you can spend all day, and that just gets my blood pressure going, how corrupt these things are. But it's not about trying to play fair. It's not about someone who's an idealistic Boy Scout who says, yes, you should vote and do your civic duty. It's not about that. It's actually to basically to bring the system down through free thought. I take a different point of view. When I look at this, I honestly don't look at this as an issue basis. I don't try to libertarian philosophy, at least not on the first encounter. The first encounter with people, my strategy has been to focus on bigotry. I honestly believe that the people like Martin Luther King and others who have fought this fight, they're seeing this as a cultural blindness. Ultimately, I believe that what we have is a cultural blindness, which is the problem. Yeah. You know, we basically, you know, we are given the government that we elect. So as much as I believe the government has all of this oppression, we give them the power. Yeah. And ultimately, before the guns come out, it's the ignorance of Americans who believe in a two-party system, who think there's no difference between them. Who think that there's no choice between those two. And so I think ultimately there's a cultural blindness that they can't get around. All right? I'll give you an example. This is an example I use all the time in these discussions. Is my grandparents are from the South, okay, and they pro-laws. And they were good people. They were Christians. They followed the law. They did well. They were honestly, they were good people. But yet they would sit back and say, all men are created equal. All follow the golden rule. And yet that black man get to the back of the bus. And they saw nothing wrong with that. There was this cultural blindness. They couldn't see beyond that. And yet if you explained to them and called them a bigot, they would respond back and find that frustrating. They would get angry back at you for thinking that of them, because in their hearts they didn't see themselves as that. They weren't putting burning crosses on people's lawns, right? But that's in essence what's happening today. People today cannot figure out how it's possible that there's 4 people on the ballot for president of the United States, sometimes 5, and yet only 2 in the national debate. It's impossible. And so what I often do is I use that strategy not to talk about libertarian philosophy, but make the average American look at their own cultural blindness, put a mirror up to see, why is that? Why is it? They get a little sticker that says, I voted today, right? And yet they vote. They think they're an educated voter, and yet they can't even tell us who 50% of their choices were they just voted for, right? They spend more time figuring out what kind of car to buy or what kind of television. They research more than 2 companies, right? But yet, yet it seems to be for the President of the United States, they don't care. And the problem is they don't see the issue. They don't even see this blindness. I try and bring it up as for this type of blindness. I kind of will ask them, why is it that they're not in this debate? And of course, we get this whole host of answers. One is, well, they're not relevant. I always love that, not being relevant. It's sort of like Ross Perot or Ralph Nader. They're not enough to be in the debate. But then after the election, and they supposedly swing the election, now they're too relevant, right? We hear that one, and get ready for it this time, because that's what's going to happen. All of a sudden, Gary Johnson's not relevant enough. He's a nobody. But when all of a sudden he wins by a greater percentage, which I hope he does, now he's too relevant. And that's the ultimate way to kind of stick it to it, for them to be, not the system, it's the American people to see that. All right? That is going to come. They often will say that at the same time, we don't have enough time. We only have time for 2 delegates, two people to be in these debates. Of course, I also argue, well, wait a minute, we've got American Idol, and we've got 30, 50 singers. We spent a whole season to vet who America's best singer is, or we have a whole season of football to figure out which is the best team. But yet, for some reason, we only have time for 2 candidates up there. And if we only have time for 2, and there's 4 on the ballot, well, you know what? You've got enough time for the other 2, and we'll just go round robin if there's only time for 2. I'm open for more debates. I'm open for a larger pool. Then, of course, you'll hear the argument that, well, these candidates, they're not real candidates, they can't win. Now, my argument for this, I'm sure many of you know this yourself in a sense, but I try and give the mirror back to these Americans. I say, look, there's 3 criteria to be president of the United States. 3. First 2 we pretty much know, right? First is you have to be born in America, and we won't get into the whole Obama thing. Second is you have to be 35 or older, right? And the third always stumps them for most people, and that is you need to win the plurality electoral college. So therefore, once they start to understand that, and they hear the electoral college, they haven't really thought that through. So the argument ultimately, but why there's not 50, there's not 10,000, there aren't all these drunk people who decide they want to become president, okay? If that's the case, their argument falls apart when they think that everyone who wants to be president is going to run, and we don't have enough time for this. No, there's 4 names on the ballot. Why are there 4 and not 1,000? Why are there 4? Okay. So ultimately, what that makes up who a legitimate candidate is. If I'm, or Bernie, or someone is really popular in Arizona, every person votes for me in Arizona for president, I can't win, right? Why? Because I can only gain 12 electoral votes. That's it. I can't get it. Doesn't matter. Everyone can love me. Doesn't matter. If I'm on 3 states, doesn't matter. I can't win the presidency. So you're not a legitimate candidate, at least to the point of actually winning. Should I be in the debate? No. Okay. But if you're on enough states that, theoretically, if you took each of those states, you would win a plurality of electoral college, you are a legitimate candidate, you can win, and for that reason alone, in the debates.
Meaning you're on the ballot.
On the ballot, enough states, exactly. Enough states that, theoretically, you won all of them. At the same time, that also represents the fact that you have an infrastructure. You have an infrastructure, not just, you're just popular in Arizona. I mean, let's say, you know, Sheriff Joe runs or something for president. I know the hisses. I'm just pointing out that, again, he's obviously a real baby here of Arizona. He fits into a lot of the, what's that?
Halloween's over. You don't have to scare us.
My point is that he's kind of an Arizona character, right? He probably wouldn't sell well, let's say, in Maine or something. But to be a candidate where you're getting enough signatures and you are able to be on the ballot on enough states also shows that you have breadth. That your views are cross-cultural along different states. Am I good? I'm being timed to that?
I'm just letting you know, we've got 5 minutes left to switch.
Go over that. So,
try to do it quietly, though.
So anyway, so that's extremely important about what a legitimate candidate is, and to explain to people who just want to basically discount the idea. We also have intelligent men like Mike Broomhead on KFYI, who sits back, and of course he's been knocking on this prop as well. And just the other day, when my blood pressure went up again, talking about how there's no need for a third party, we're just fine with the two-party system right now, right? And he goes on and on saying that third parties don't make a difference. Of course, I have 2 words: Abraham Lincoln. Right? He was a third party, and he was head of the Republican Party at that point. So, I mean, he was their version of Ron Paul. I mean, maybe not ideology as much, but at the same time of showing how true movements can occur. They also talk about that we already have enough representation of the 2 parties right now for our political views. I would argue as well that it's interesting how we have Republican or Democrat the way it is today. And it clearly shows we're having a philosophical divorce, political divorce in this country as each party goes further and further. And the children in the middle are trying to figure out where to go. And a lot of the kids are saying, I'm fed up with both of you. Right? It's the libertarian philosophy that's holding steady. And of course, what is that? Every political historian will tell you that the founding fathers, granted the Federalists and such, were libertarian philosophy. And we were talking Adams and Jefferson. So how is it possible there's 2 people in the national debates, and one of the parties, the party that is of our founding fathers, is not even being represented? Okay? I mean, it's when I hear KFY talk about the Constitution, and they sit there and they wrap themselves up on the flag, and at the same time, the party of our founding fathers is not even being allowed in. Now, it's not just about the Libertarian Party, again, but it is something to point out that when they think that every political view is being held, it clearly isn't, especially when you take that into account. You know, I also think that what's important as far as the voting is, and you know, I've, like a lot of us here, been buying gold for $300 an ounce, and what have you, we've been involved getting ready for this for some time. We know, it's like I often say, it's called math. This economy is going to do a tailspin, and it will go down. There's no question about it, the longer you're watching this. My concern, though, is like what's happened in other countries is, you know, when it happens, or before it happens, no one wants to pay attention, right? It's bread and circuses, as they say, or, you know, people are busy watching all the reality shows, or they're getting all their tax money, or let's say they're taxed, but they're giving the goodies back, shut up, you know, just kind of stay put. No one seems to get too interested in it. And so you try and warn people about the Austrian economics and how things are. They're too busy. They're too busy making money, flipping houses, all of this. Then after the economy goes, or after the problem occurs, now they're too much in a panic mode, right? At that point, I don't have time for this. Like Bernie, I don't have time to hear all about props, and you know, I got to feed my kids. And so what happens? They attack the Constitution, or they attack the system that put them there. And they attack capitalism, which they've done, and they're still doing. They'll attack the Constitution. And they've done this, every fascist regime has done the same thing. That, you know, our founding fathers, you know, it proves that our old views don't work. It's failed us. So therefore, if you give me a little more power, I can give you security. And of course, we know there's quotes from Franklin warning us about that. So my concern with that in mind is that the attacks will be on the Constitution, they'll be on what's left of the Constitution, is that the average American who's bigoted right now, they don't see it. They have that cultural blindness about politics. They will not know where to go. They won't know where to go. That's the concern. You know, you don't vote, we don't have a percentage. There's a view that these views do not have. Okay? And when this goes, who's going to take credit? Well, the Republicans are all going to blame the Democrats. You see, we told you it was your programs. The Democrats are going to turn around and blame the Republicans and say, hey, told you, you know, everything we said. And so these 2 parties that both keep spending the money, they don't bother asking where the money's coming from. After make fun of us in tinfoil hat and right by gold. I said, all you do, and every time that you're saying that he's right and you're wrong, because where were these gold commercials before this? So you and your little sidekick Buffy, that was laughing all morning. I said, you're all busy buying this gold. And I said, you know something else, Mr. Young there? Happen to be aware of the fact that, the whole gold eagle that you're selling every day was through an act through a young representative, Ron Paul, right? He created the Gold Eagle Act. I mean, he's the one who came up with the whole idea. He wrote the bill. I mean, so, they're selling his coins. It's astounding, but this type of information is not out there. And we can go all day about trying to pump up or explain what we've done. That's right. My point is, the average American won't know it. That's my concern. It all becomes fruitless. And to go back to the bigotry example, I think movements, you always have a certain contention about. And actually, the civil rights is a similar example. Not that I think in any way I'm Martin Luther King, but my philosophy is probably more like Dr. King, whereas Ernie Hancock's more like Malcolm X. And I say those in respect. And you need both. That's the thing. You come from both angles. And this is the concern. The way Dr. King would probably look at it is, imagine if you have a black individual, a black man who's been told that he's, subservient, he doesn't have the same skills. And with all of the hoops and all the barriers put in there, he's able to learn and write English back in the day, right? He goes against every convention, and then eventually applies to a college, gets into Yale. And then at that point, after all that work, after everything, he says, you know what? I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to go home, right? They stick it to the system. And of course, the white establishment says that's good because we don't need any more of your kind of lawyers and doctors. We have enough lawyers and doctors. That's what I'm told, especially about third parties. We don't need to hear a third party. We already have enough parties as they are, right? Well, you know what? Sometimes it's about fairness. Sometimes it's also about bringing another perspective into the equation, another culture into it. That's what I think that we bring. And by turning around and going home, it makes it harder for the next generation to make these points and make these principles. So that's definitely an argument I have, and the frustration about not voting is, as I said, people are not going to know who to turn to. The establishment is going to reconsolidate and fortify even more when everyone's scared and bankrupt and running around. And I'd like to be able to at least let people know that, if anything else, it's themselves looking in the mirror, that it's their own bigotry of the sea that has created this problem. And just very lastly here, I have to admit, I've been very, about Gary Johnson, is he the best fit? Probably not for a lot of us. I have issues with him as well. But here's a very important point about voting for him of all of them. Getting a third party in or for other debates. We have antitrust laws, right? Why? Now granted, antitrust laws, in a true capitalist society, you wouldn't have to need them anyway, it works its way out. But in theory, antitrust works for a certain reason. Why? We want competition. Why? Because if you have a monopoly, you decrease creativity, you decrease new ideas. And hence you increase corruption and you increase prices. Okay? Always happens. It happens across the board. Anytime you have a fixed economy and you have a monopoly. Well, we have a duopoly, obviously. And we have the same problem. Without competition of these ideas, then we have corruption and lack of ideas and prices, right? Because you're locked into these two parties. So to have a third party in there or a fourth party, to have other voices in there, okay, you are going to force the other parties to have to shape up. They say that all the parties are the same. They're not. And I give principle, and thank you for bringing that up. That's an example I bring up for the funds, the matching funds. People say that they're all the same. The Libertarian Party is so principled that when they were on the ballot in all 50 states and they could apply for it, they refused it. I mean, even to their detriment. That to me says volumes about the convictions of patriots, of people, and not just in this party, but of other third parties. So to have parties or politicians of conviction to be in the debates would therefore force the other parties to have to essentially shape up. So again, this competition is really quite important. And I have to admit, I'm a little disappointed with Representative Paul, Dr. Paul, because the amount of leverage and momentum that he created was unprecedented for all of us that have been doing this for a long time. Build momentum, and then just kind of
fizzle out.
I could just say that I focus in urology, and there's a term called scrotal vasocongestion. For you guys, it's called blue balls. And yeah, a little technical, but that's what it feels like. The ladies don't quite understand, but the point is that this is something that it builds and builds, and then just to have no release with this, and then let it fizzle out. For Ron Paul not to even say, write my name in, or him say, don't vote. Just let him say that. Or say, let's put this momentum with Gary Johnson to show that percentage, to let other people not be cowards next time, to say that other people have similar views. So that's pretty much it. I just want to say that the monkey wrench, I think, is, as I said, to make sure. We talk about the wrench is to get a percentage that's greater than Mitt Romney's loss or whatever way this thing swings, that will shove it to them. And ultimately, whether I'm right or wrong to vote, at the end of the day, I think we're all in agreement, though. Revolutions are going to occur on their own. You don't need the rules don't matter, don't apply. When the momentum is there, it will happen. And as they often say that, an army can defeat another army. That's not an issue. But an army can never defeat a people when they're in revolt. And at the end of the day, that will win through. So, thanks.
It's the Saturday before the election. We're going long, get over it. Those that have to leave, leave. You got to change the tape. Gutenkopf's. Now to sum this up, we need them because of this one point. All of this don't mean jack squat if the elections are compromised to begin with. So this has been my thing from the beginning. Running 94 Secretary of State, do you really think there's election fraud? Got proof? What's the crazy libertarian going to say? What's your proof? They passed legislation making it impossible for you to find it. How much proof do you need? How's the weather today? We need to talk about something else. Anything else. As the time has gone on, it is, and Maricopa County has, because of the attention of the Gutenkopfs and other people, it has become the lightning rod and the neon flashing poster child for election fraud across this country. A lot of you guys here living here, you don't know it. Maricopa County is made fun of on a regular basis. And there's a reason, and the Gutenkopfs are going to tell us. Can you keep it under 15? And after we get done with this, you need to come and visit with 4409. He got arrested again by the police. But they can, So you need to come over and visit with him and buy his stuff. Please go ahead.
First of all, there we go.
Maybe not.
A lot of people think that the word vote is a four-letter word. But the word free is also a four-letter word. And from all my years of activism in this process, studying election law, I've discovered that the right to vote also includes the right to not vote. So we do have that right. But I want to talk about something bigger other than voting. Voting is a six-letter word, and that's a participle. It's an action, it's a process. It's not just a four-letter word, your ballot. It's a process. And that's part of under the bigger umbrella of freedom. We've got a First Amendment right to vote, and I hear a lot of people talking about you're just voting for force when you vote. And I don't agree that that's true. You have a choice to either vote for freedom or to vote for legal plunder. And so that's really the issue. But I want to talk about another six-letter word, and that is legacy. I attended a conference, Christian Men's Conference, about a month ago. It's about legacy. And the reason we're here today talking about voting is because of the legacy that has been passed on from the Arizona Breakfast Club. Ernie Hancock has taken over the legacy that was given to us by Harry Everingham. The reason I'm here today is because in 1996, I was at the Arizona Breakfast Club, and I heard Jim Collier speak about a problem called vote scam, the stealing of America. And he spent 26 years investigating vote fraud, but he never gave up as far as his activism. And I agree, your right to vote includes your right to not vote. And if you choose to not vote out of principle, I respect that. But the reason I love people like Ernie Hancock is because not only has he done the activism, you know, the voting, the filing the lawsuits and so forth to preserve that right, but he's not stopping there. And if he says still voting, that's okay, because I know he's doing other things besides thinking that he can just vote and make himself free. A lot of people have seen this DVD, and Ernie's passed this out, you know, Freedom to Fascism, also the Obama deception. Activism changes things. One of the people that ran as a libertarian candidate, John Wilde, a legal researcher, said that activism changes things. And I believe we still have the power to change things through the vote. We can vote against those people who are promoting legal plunder. And that's different from saying, I choose to not participate, because it's like Judge Napolitano said, is it possible that by not voting that you actually voted? And I believe that that's true. Like Plato said, those who refuse to participate in politics are subject to being governed by those who are their inferiors. And I think that that's true. I think it is disingenuous to say, I'm not voting, but I'm free. And there was a German philosopher who said there's no greater slave than the man who falsely believes himself to be free. Now, we're not just voting for president in this election, but we've got a host of local issues to be voted on, whether it be real ID, photo radar, et cetera, et cetera. So for me to say I'm not voting and then drive down the street and then get tagged by a red light camera and say I'm free, it just doesn't equate as far as I'm concerned. And a free market solution, saying I participate in the free market and so therefore I'm free, I'm not involved in government, that doesn't solve the problem of public surveillance, of photo cameras and so forth. It also doesn't solve the problem of Obamacare. And that's something I'm very concerned about. I grew up in a medical family. My dad was a physician. You can read the story in Phoenix, the online version, and I give reasons why I vote. And I'm extremely concerned that the legacy passed on by my father is going to be compromised with Obamacare if the current president is not voted out.
So therefore Romney's the answer?
Well, let me put it what Judge Napolitano said. He said, should we vote for a president or not? Actually, Judge Napolitano says, if I have a choice to take one step in the direction of the free market and away from socialism, and if Romney is the vote that will do that, that's what he's going to do. So, I happen to respect Judge Napolitano.
Yes.
Read his book, When Government Breaks the Law. And he talks about there's two remedies. Number one, enforcing the Constitution. And enforcing the Constitution means voting. That's the First Amendment right. It's a freedom. So you enforce the Constitution. The second remedy, he says, pardon the expression, sue the bastards. That's what I've done with our elections lawsuit. I've also done that with Redflex, with their photo surveillance cameras. So, and I can point to results from my activism. Ernie can point to results from his activism. Activism changes things. I've never had anybody explain to me adequately how not voting makes you more free or how that changes things. You can say, well, you're giving your consent to the government. Would you think that not voting is going to make you any less subject to the government? I say no. I think that's a false illusion. The argument has been made, well, when you're voting Republican or Democrat, you've got the illusion of choice. There, as Pat Buchanan used to say, is two separate wings of the same bird of prey. So I like what this gentleman had to say talking about voting for third party. And I believe it was John Adams that said, always vote for principle, and your vote will never be wasted. I would rather see somebody vote for principle and vote for somebody like Ron Paul or Gary Johnson. They've expressed their opinion, they voted their values, they voted issues. I agree with Ernie, it's all about individual rights. It's not about this collectivist state thing. So I encourage you to read the article and see the reasons why I vote. And I think this is going to be a very critical election. To think that you cannot vote and that we're not going to be subject to, in March of 2013, if you get in a car accident and have to go to an emergency room, guess where the first stop you're going to have to make is? Anybody know?
The IRS building?
You're going to have to go down the hall to the new IRS office that's been created, and you're going to have to show, you know, your paperwork and so forth. There is a new gatekeeper in healthcare. There is also apparently a provision that in order to get care, you have to have a Class 2 device implanted under your skin, which is going to contain your medical information and your financial information.
It's already in the law.
Yeah.
So it has to be.
So to think that you cannot vote, you know, and oppose that, there's a chance to oppose that. There's two ways to stop this, what I call a crushing juggernaut. Two ways to stop it. Either vote for a candidate who has promised to repeal Obamacare the first day he gets into office.
Who's that? What candidate's that?
Romney.
He said
Let him say his piece.
He said repeal and replace it with his own.
He said replace. In fact, there is a.
There's going to be national health.
Yeah, he's not repealing.
It ain't going nowhere.
The day after the Supreme Court ruled on it, and he was interviewed, and he did not say repeal, he said replace.
Okay, well, I may stand corrected. I'll go back and look at his remarks. But anyway, we've got that choice, or we've got the choice to vote for state representatives who will know and understand the Constitution, who will reject Obamacare via the 10th Amendment. So we do have some alternatives. But to me, to not act at all is not a solution. If you choose not to vote, that's your right to do that. I respect that. That's what that right involves, the freedom to vote or to not vote. But I can tell you, I have a different perspective from having been over in Romania. In 2003, I was part of a mission team through music ministry, and I saw a square where Ceausescu spoke to his people. This was in 1989, and I could see the bullet holes in the buildings from the riots that broke out in Romania. And the host family that I stayed with told me the stories about having to duck down on the floor to avoid the bullets that the communists were shooting. So I've seen what happens there too. That's what happens when you don't have the right to vote. And the point I want to make is, let's think about legacy. Ernie has been very good at carrying on the torch, the legacy of freedom, through this Arizona Breakfast Club that's been passed down through Harry Everingham. I'm here because 16 years ago, I heard a man speak on Vote Scam, the stealing of America. I want to ask you what you can do, or anything else, to prevent our freedoms from being stolen from us. And I know that Jim Collier, if he were here today and asked if he was still voting, I can't imagine him saying, yeah, I did 26 years of work for voting integrity, but I'm not going to vote. His daughter Vicki, his legacy, she's written a great article called How to Rig an Election. It's in Harper's Magazine, and it's a great article, but as Vicki said, not to do anything is not an option, you know. So it's public pressure, as Senator Everett Dirksen said, when they feel the heat, they see the light. So I just want to ask you, what kind of heat are you putting on our public servants? Bob Dylan said you got to serve somebody. So, you know, it may be the devil, may be the Lord. Who are you going to choose to be your servant? Either somebody who knows and understands the 10 Commandments and the first 10 Amendments, or you got a choice for somebody who's going to impose the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto. Yeah. I think it's a pretty simple choice. So I think if we get bogged down in parties and candidates, you know, you're missing the point of the issues and individual rights. But I think to say but that by not voting, you've not voted, I think that that is a mistake. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. I read that book when it, same time that he probably did, and I tell you, who was the star of the whole thing? Who was helping this happen in Dade County in Miami?
Oh, Janet Reno.
Janet Reno. That's Hughes County attorney back then, and that's where she got her start and came up through and qualified her to be in the Clinton administration because she was behind the fraud in Florida. So this has been a continuation of forever and always, and I'm like, that's not, you're still voting, just even bring up the question. These arguments were done in the first video that we did with James Babb, and somebody in the audience, he kept, well, I don't get it, how are you counted? He goes, who counts it? Is there a vote for nobody total somewhere? Or is there, how do people know that you built up this why you're not voting? And he's very calm and collected. He did a great job. He's a lot better than me. And he goes like this. He goes, it's not really about that. He goes, it's about consent. I'm not consenting to a process that's ruling me. I just don't consent. It's an individual thing, a consent. Can you have that I don't consent and vote for a third party or another individual or a philosophy? Sometimes the philosophy is not pure. Is that the same thing? It says, yeah, it says, yeah, it'll send a message. My personal experiences, I'll leave you with this, has been that everything is counted on the basis that they accurately count the votes to begin with. And I don't trust the sons of bitches. I really, really don't. If this whole thing is dependent on the number that they, I'll put it this way, and this is the rhetoric I would use when I run for Secretary of State. When I go to the grocery store and I pull off a can of coffee or a package or decaf or a different brand or super roast from what Lord knows what third world country around the planet, Africa, Central America, whatever, and I go up to the register and it goes bleep, it deletes it from the inventory, it orders it again, it does all this complicated math, that's not secret. But when I go to these voting companies and I want to know how they counted 1 + 1, 2, 3, that's proprietary secret, you're not allowed to look in the counting of our votes. Gunkofs know this. We've gone through, we want to see how the program, you know what, we'll be happy with, which they helped write, along with Karen Johnson, and got passed in 2006 on run for Secretary of State, had to file suit in Supreme Court for them to enact the law that they just legislature emergency passed and Napolitano signed. Emergency legislation. We're putting this in, we're going to manually count this election. But I knew they weren't really going to do it. So I filed suit. And the Assistant Secretary of State, he gets up to me and he goes, yeah, we're not going to do it. Boom! I filed a lawsuit, and you know what my evidence was they weren't going to do it? An affidavit that he told me they weren't. And they go, oh, don't talk to Ernie, you dumb shit. I go, of course I can do that, dummy. So I'm on television saying, look, they're not going to find it. They didn't do what they said they actually passed, so we filed suit. Michael Kilsky was the attorney representing the Libertarian Party on this. Step by step, Jim March came in, fatally flawed the movie, all this other stuff. We know, we don't think, we know, we know. So what do? Do I put my faith in what I know to be a corrupt system? I can't. And I can't lie to myself, and I sure as hell not going to lie to you. So that number that Frank is talking, if that was the truth, I may have a totally different opinion. But it's easy for me to fall into James Babb's argument of giving consent, because what I'm not giving consent to is an inaccurate, corrupt counting process to begin with.
There you go.
Now, I may want to be also that and the fact that I don't want to be ruled by whoever winds up, they say won. But you have to understand, it goes even deeper with me. It's not just I give consent to somebody that's going to rule me. I don't even trust the process. So, what do? You do what I do what I always do. I bitch. Lie. And I allow everybody to have their say except him because he doesn't know to be quiet. So, okay, now you may say whatever you want.
Is there a difference before God, there's a difference. You give your consent or not. But before, in real life on this earth, it's all the same game. The apathy or whatever you want to call it. It's all in the apathy category, right?
Does anybody think I'm apathetic?
I think God can discern between your.
I don't think God thinks I'm apathetic.
Besides
No,
voting,
and
what are you
apathy.
doing?
But as far as the culture is concerned, here on this earth, it's all the same pile that they didn't vote.
But
I think
besides,
Those are the ones that are voting.
That's where Bab comes in. He made a very good, this exact same argument. She was very kind, the audience participant. She goes, how is it counted? How do you get the total? Where's the, we didn't vote thing? Because that's one thing, I'm saying, you're still voting. What I would do, they would go, well, are you winning? And I go, look, you guys don't get it. What I'm doing is I'm counting, I look at all the people that are eligible to vote. You look at the numbers. In Kosovo, they had this big invasion, and we go and we're going to kick ass, and Yugoslavia broke up into a bunch of things, and we're going to have voting, and there's an ethnic cleansing. We just had a video up today. You go up there, Madeleine Albright. She was in Serbia or somewhere, Croatia, or whatever. She's signing a book, Prague or whatever. She's doing a book signing. A bunch of people calling her murderer and warmonger and all this kind of stuff. And she, get out of here, you dirty Serbs.
She said that?
Yeah. So it went viral. That's why we put it up. So that's where she's at. Okay. So the thing is that when they did all that, they go, we're going to have voting. It's going to make it all good then. 3-something%. And they didn't. The guys that they didn't want to get in, the U.S. State Department, they didn't have the winners that they wanted. So what happened? They go, well, we didn't have that many people vote, so we're just canceling the election. Yeah. So I look at the numbers, and I go to the U.S. and I go, oh hell, we wish we did that high.
Yeah, really.
So is our elections all discounted now? So when I do the still voting thing, I go, look, man, I'm winning. They go, how many votes did you get? I go, I got more than you guys. Well, the people not participating. So how do you give legitimacy to the government when people just instinctively just don't care or don't think that their vote matters? So to give voice to it, that's why we do this. Because nobody can, just the mindset of this. It has an enormous, I tell you what, when we send it goes on Facebook and it goes out, people got pissed. And I'm going, and when Powell did his thing, he did his debate was a fundraiser for Mark Victor at a Greek restaurant. Wanted to do a fundraiser for Mark in Tempe. We're sitting there, and a bunch of libertarians came in. Yeah, it was all about Powell. Yeah, Powell, he said don't vote. I can't believe you. I go, what did he say? Well, it was libertarian stuff, but then he said not vote. And not vote. I'm going, that's my favorite part. Okay,
yeah, mine too.
So the thing is that then what happens? Shelton makes a video and we have fun with this thing. So what is you're right, this law is going to create a centrist vote. It's going to, the center, because I always saw it as a hump. It goes, you got a line, and it goes like this, and it goes like that. And the libertarians take this total no freaking compromise, no government, anarchist, leave me aloneism. Then you got the total totalitarian. Then you got this hump that goes over, Dan's his head here. Yeah. Whichever one he is, I can't remember his twins. So you got the hump that goes over, and the Democrats are on the left side of the hump, the Republicans on the right side, trying to appeal to their base over here, and then they race to the center for the general election, and that's your center. The massive amount of votes are right here. So libertarians, I always saw us as being here. Why? To move the center. Everything that I do is to change the culture and the mind of the people that the center is over here. To where, no, it's not about more gun control, it's about less. It's not about how many more years we can put people for life for doing cocaine. It's decriminalizing marijuana. It's not about, the state being able to raise and rule your kids. It's about homeschool. It's about, you see what I mean? It's about moving the culture this way. And I can't do it from here. I do it from here.
Ernie, I have a question for you. I mean, if people taking your philosophy and everyone was like this in Texas, we would never have Representative Ron Paul in the ballot. I mean, he would never have even been a candidate.
Exactly.
Right? And that philosophy movement that moved from the middle to where we are. I mean, it's making that
But you're under the impression that he wouldn't be here, and that's a
or there wouldn't be 47 others more like him.
Well, I mean, put it this way: I voted for him in '88, and no one even knew about him. Now, all of a sudden, in re-elections, a long time ago, look at the momentum we've made. I mean, the youth today.
But you're thinking that's all about him. It was the whole system.
Yeah, this is
bringing notice home.
This is a perfect argument right here. 1990. 96, the Libertarian Party was making the argument, if we don't take federal matching funds, then we won't have the notoriety, the blah, 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 and we're going to get, and this was the argument that we made. I'm going, look, I don't think you guys get it. You're not going to have any kind of moral standing to go up and say, we're against corporate welfare and social welfare, but we need a shitload of political welfare to tell you that.
Right.
You see my point? It's like if we got all this money, we're against getting all this money, then, somehow that works. So I'm going, no, it doesn't. If we always do this cold of the omnipotent state thing, it's what I've been screaming to the Libertarian Party. It's why I ran for national chair. It's why I was hammering on war, Wayne Allen Root. It's why I was doing all this stuff. It was because I'm going, you guys don't understand the power of being libertarian. You don't. So what happens? In Denver 08, right after the Levolution, the first election in 08 with Ron Paul, and then he pulls the C4L and all that stuff. The Libertarians are sitting there, we got Congressman Bob Barr, a Libertarian for you, backed up by Wayne Allen Root. It went 6 ballots before they finally combined forces and agreed that Bob would be the presidential, Wayne would be the VP, if Wayne would be supported to be the presidential candidate 4 years later. That was the deal. So, Mary Ruart, lost that election, and so I'm going, okay. They thought that the Levolution would come over to them just out of default. Well, of course they'll come over here, and I'm up there. I'm like the Levolution, grandfather guy, saying, "Look, are you freaking stupid? Why would they? Heck, it's enough of a chore for them to go over to Gary Johnson, and he's 10 times better than Barr, But he's still got that fair tax thing." I've had Gary on my show a couple of times, in studio. Heck, I just had him on a few weeks ago. I've had the judge on. I had all these guys. Bring them on, bring them on, bring them on. And I'm just going, look, if you dump this fair tax thing, you'd have a lot smoother road with this. But he's too locked in already. We still got to, fund government somehow with the force taking your income or something. What? How does that work? So it's always about the principle. If we don't have that principle to vote for or to support, it doesn't even matter if it's going to be counted. I'm looking for if we can support the purpose of government, the defense of individual rights as a philosophy, as a party, as individuals, everything else comes. All of a sudden you'll have, I'm amazed there's only one Ron Paul. Had we been doing this for decades and taken that principle, we would have a bunch of Ron Pauls. We wouldn't have Ron Paul if we didn't have subsidized doing through the Republican blah, blah, blah. How the hell do you know? If we had a culture, the people looking in the mirror, exactly what you said, and understood it was their own advocacy of stealing from their neighbor to redistribute to their political party club was the problem, maybe we would have a lot better. So if 121 passes, which I don't care, you vote, don't vote, I don't give a crap, okay? If it passes, it's going to change the entire dynamic, and I get to play on a whole nother level. You watch me.
I comment on the fact that if you define voter fraud as someone
Election
trying...
fraud?
What's that?
Election fraud, you mean?
No. Voter fraud.
Voter fraud, this is the big distinction. Everybody gets on my case on this definition. Voter fraud are the voters doing the fraud, which is like none. Okay? Election or the government doing the fraud. So if you're talking about the voters fraud, a bunch of immigrants lining up, getting off the bus and voting for Obama, that's one thing. If you're talking about election fraud through the actual system itself.
Numerous studies, lots of research has proven that actual voter fraud, where somebody's trying to vote as a dead person or as Mickey Mouse, Snow White, there have been like 300, 400 cases in the last 40 years. It's non-existent. However, election fraud, where, for instance, Jim Crow laws, or today the voter suppression on the part of the GOP, it's what the Republicans are doing. It's not...
I'm proud of it.
And they're proud of it. So I think there's a lot of people in this room that are saying we've got to stop those Democrats from committing voter fraud, when in fact there's really no...
Just PR. Just babbling BS. I know.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go ahead and go this gentleman and Tom.
So, Ernie...
We're going to pick on Tom here a little bit.
It seems what you're saying here is to bring the power down to the local level. As you can get it as close to the local level as possible.
The local level has given up its power, because the cities used to, I used to do this. I would go to do what they call the logic and accuracy test in the 90s. We joined public access just so we could get access to quality video cameras. Hell, now for $20 at Best Buy or something, you could get a HD video camera for what we went to classes for weeks to be able to get their videotaping. And we would go to these logic and accuracy tests. We did one in Tempe, it was funny. We go in there, they do their test, they run the cards, and they go through it, and it didn't work. Man, they were just, yeah, we did, okay, check off, fine, they didn't care. If we weren't standing there, I know they would have just left it. So they go, oh God, these guys are video, and they kept doing it, and kept doing it, and they couldn't get it to work. You know, what are you gonna do? Oh, we're gonna test it later, we'll get, we'll certify it. Oh, okay, when are you gonna do that? Yeah, someday, kind of, they don't care. It was just BS. It was a checkoff that they did. And the fact that we get it all on videotape. Who airs it? Where does it go? We didn't have internet. How do we do this? It's totally different now. The Good Cop brothers, they're in there videotaping, and it's under the law. They even got to change the manuals and all this kind of stuff because they file a lawsuit. And they go, yeah, you can't hear. Yeah, but the law says we don't care. File a lawsuit, we win. But here next time we're going to do it. Yeah, you won last time. That was last time. We don't care. I mean, you think we haven't been through this before? I don't think I know it. This is so messed up. But you want to get it down to local. So what happens? We have 1 year from now is going to be the City of Phoenix elections. So we're going, hey, man, let's go, can we have some fun? Probably. But what is it going to be about? Let me tell you what the issues are going to be. It's going to be, not that we need more cops or more firemen or something. We need the ability to grow our own food and sell it on the corner, not be hassled by the man. We need the ability to be able to use, internet transactions without it being taxed. I have an initiative I filed in the summer of 2002 that's still sitting there, waiting for them to do it. Amazon now is charging sales tax in the state of Arizona. Just started. Just started last week. Okay?
Yep, they are.
So we're going, the City of Phoenix is going to jump on that, you watch. When I filed this in the summer of 2002, they go, oh, we're never going to do it. We're not doing that early. We have no plans. So I go, yeah, yet. I'm just waiting.
10 years ago.
10 years. I saw activity reports. Donna keeps sending them in. We're still got the same number. It's going to say when we start circulating, it's going to say initiative number CV blah, 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 92 or 02. And I'm going, whoa. Because I know, of course, they're going to do it. They can't not. So this thing it's going to be issues in the City of Phoenix that'll be around stuff like that. Are they going to tax your ability to survive? Are they going to allow you to have chickens in your yard? Are they going to let you do a well? Are they going to, it's going to be the simple, I wish to survive and not die kind of stuff. That's what we're going to be focusing on. Tom?
Well, before I get on the question or the statement I want to make, the Amazon thing, wasn't that taxed because they have so much here in Amazon?
Oh, they're doing it nationally. They already did it in California.
Yeah.
They're going here. They don't get it. They'll make up whatever reason.
So then they're
and another subject that, before I get to what I want to talk about, something about survival. You're talking about survival. I happen to have a property in Ocean City, New Jersey. It's a resort.
It's gone now.
I'll tell you, man, that city. We had 3.5 feet of water. The entire island was underwater. And not only the city, you had Wildwood, Atlantic City, Brigantine, just the entire coast.
Literally conservative Governor Christie is Obama's bestest buddy right now. But he needs big government to come and sign the thing, and we're all and screw Mitt Ryan thinking about presidential politics because I need Obama to sign a paper because I'm in need. We didn't take care of ourselves.
Well, what I'm getting at is my sister has been out of power. She just got her power back. You talk about we need to be prepared for survival. Yes. The East Coast was totally unprepared.
8 million homes without electricity. Think they're preppers now?
There was no food in the grocery stores, no supplies, nothing. Walmart, I'm not a big fan of Walmart. Walmart, I'm not a big fan of Home Depot, I'm not a big fan of Lowe's, but these guys seem we didn't have to depend on FEMA and things like that. These corporations stepped up.
But if you prepare, you're a terrorist.
Yeah, but they weren't
That's right,
black cauldron of a low lying, we wanted to take it over later thing. It all depends,
But anyway, what I wanted to say about the voting thing, I agree with you. I'm really concerned that even if we have to vote, they're making it up.
You're voting on something that looks like an old Burger King register.
Yeah. Well, exactly. That's exactly where I'm going with this. I was at a Republican county meeting, and Ken Bennett got up and talked about elections, and so I rushed over to him afterwards. I said, Ken, why don't we have voting machines that spit out a receipt, like you're at a gas station or you're at your ATM and things like that? I know it's a little bit difficult now with early ballots and things like that. You would have thought I was the devil. He looked at me like, Etienne, you can't do this. I mean, they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know. I thought it'd be so easy. What's so difficult about that? Some of
Not that that happens.
some of the precincts are so small, and that's what happened 4 years ago with Ron Paul. The precincts were so small that they knew how many people voted. They were all Ron Paul. The entire precinct was Ron Paul, and then it showed up on TV that you got 0 votes. I mean, we couldn't really do it, but you could verify some.
No. This happened around the country. We know. They know that we know they know we know. They don't care.
One of the problems with the touchscreen balloting, touchscreen voting, is that you can get one result to show on the display screen. It records another result in the memory pack, and it can print out a third result on the ballot. So it means nothing. The solution is hand-counted paper ballots at the precinct.
Here.
Until that's done. Of course, it's not. You can't afford the apathy of saying, "Oh, it's rigged. I'm not going to participate." That's not a solution. The solution, as Vicki Collier says, go to the precincts and put pressure on these people. I want a hand count of those ballots before they leave the precinct. I mean, we risked that videotaping the new computers in 1996, and they threatened us with arrest. But here's the key point. I went in with the statute which said the count shall be public in the presence of bystanders. That means that it's presumed that there is citizen vigilance. If you were not vigilant, if we're so apathetic that we won't be vigilant and enforce the law.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you?
Well, 10 years later, it got another law. Now, they may not be implementing that, but there's a change. There's now recognition, whereas in 2002, when I went to the legislature, they were saying, oh, we can't have a law to count. People might think that the computers aren't accurate.
Okay, not accurate. Let me tell you what happened. In 2002, yeah, Frank.
In voter voting, I don't know why anybody would worry about a voter's vote. When in the computer system and the technology we have today, it's so much easier to control any vote they want in the United States in one or two little old computers in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It's
way too easy.
It's that's ridiculous to worry about the individual voter's vote in our technological system of today.
Okay, let me go ahead and kind of walk you through the system, how I know it's so bad. In 1994, we had we were doing voter election fraud coverage and so on, and this had been discovered in the '92 campaign in Las Vegas. There was a woman named Mark, a libertarian, who was on the LNC, and she, uncovered a bunch of this. United We Stand, at the time, the Perot group, they knew there was a bunch of this kind of Ron Paul kind of thing, and they're all mad. And they spent like $80,000 doing the investigation on this. It finally went to where she was running for state office as a libertarian. Vince Prentowitz, was just moved up there. He's editor of Las Vegas Review-Journal. He gets up there and he finds out, she's running for state rep, had a big 18-wheeler edema. She was well known for her activism on pro-life stuff or pro-choice or whatever. And what happened was, she gets up there, all of a sudden she's winning. Casino owners calling her in, they're wanting to talk to her, we need you to do this, or you're not going to win, blah, 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 blah. She's going, no, I'm not compromising the libertarian thing, get over it. It goes up, she's winning by, it's like a 60-40. All of a sudden, computers go down. 20 minutes, hour later, where they come back up, it's reversed. They track this, they go through 13 people were indicted, okay? This is what they were doing. They take the ballots from the precincts where they're voting them, and they're instructed with an address to go drop them off at. They doing the research, they go, hey man, they told me to drop them off here, I had the address, I got a piece of paper somebody gave me, I went and I dropped them off there, and that's where I dropped them. Where they went were the union halls of the culinary, all the unions for the casinos and everything. The ballots went there, they redid them, they're hours late before they get to the actual counting places, they were all repackaged. 13 people get indicted. They go up and they won't, accurately do them. They can't find, they won't redo, whatever. Who sets the legislatures? The legislators. They go, yep, we put this incumbent guy back in, sucks to be you, done. Oh, okay. So this becomes a big news, certainly in the Southwest. Nobody else ever hears about it. Tamara Clark came to be the campaign manager for John Buttrick when he was running for governor. She's going, let me tell you how they do all this. We go down to the Maricopa County election. She goes, and I know that person, and that person, and that person. They shipped them from Nevada and came down here. So then we get this voter database stuff for free, right? Well, we say we want it in paper. Ballots. A paper, you get walking list. So we had, in our office, we had a big, workshop. It was our first workshop, or our first Ron Paul one. It was in the whole second story up there we had. And we had probably about the size of 3-4 of these rooms. It was big. And we had these picnic tables, the fold-out wood, these tables, going all the way around the room, and we had stacks of these. We put them by district, and we said, hey, anybody that wants to come and find their precinct, you can take and go do walking list, whatever, just have it there. We let it be known that, yeah, we're doing kind of, voter, we're checking, we know there's a lot of fraud, and they were freaked. We're going to find something. They knew something was in those papers. All of a sudden, she moved from Nevada, and she was staying in the back room. We had a room area with a bed in the back. That's where she was sleeping. And one night she hears somebody in there going on the doors and so on. So she kind of crawls up around the wall and she can hear them. And they go, yeah, well, we know they're not here after such and such a time. We can kind of, we're going, they're wanting to come in and break in and do and whatever, right? So we're thinking, when would they do this? And we go, Halloween night. It was right around Halloween. We go, I'll bet you they come Halloween night. A bunch of people out, wearing costumes. We'll be out doing something else. They'll wait till we leave. They'll come in. Dean Viper Militia Pleasant, okay, stayed there with her with a 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun. Waited until they came to the place. He started opening the door. Hello? And they take off. There were 3 or 4 of them in little ninja outfits, okay? He corners one of them, gets one of them, calls cops. The cops come. They didn't take his gun, didn't freak out. The guy, no ID, clean shaven and everything, Dockers, kind of clean, whatever. Yeah, I was homeless, I was just looking for a place to sleep. Yeah. Okay? They do an incident report, they let him go. Dean goes, it's all done. They go, hey man, the next day I come in county, he calls me that night. I go, I want a police report, I want the contact sheet from the officer, give me. They wouldn't do it. They're like, yeah, well, we don't have any revenue. I'm like, really? Okay? This is what happened. My counterpart, a guy named Mike Evans, I think, I can't remember. He was the executive director for the Democrats, and there was a counter against Gary something for the Republicans. This is 1994. This is when they took the elections department and they moved it down to 16th Street and University, or wherever the heck it was down there. They moved it there because there was a T1 line that went there. They wanted to take and put the computers in, hook the internet, 94, mind you, a T1 line back into the back of the computers as it was counting the votes, and it went straight to the World Trade Center where they had this national reporting news thing that goes to all the networks.
That's what I said.
They were changing the ballots as they were being counted in the computers. So this is what they, I go, oh hell no, as county chairman, I vote no, okay? If I get to have any kind of, I vote no. When this happened, both the Republican guy came to the Libertarian Party headquarters. We explained to it. Mike McCloy was a reporter for the Arizona Republic, came also. The Grapevine was the only one that would report it. It was a street homeless activist newspaper. They wrote the whole story up. It went everywhere. That's why they wanted to shut down that paper. They made it illegal for you to pass them out, anything. Homeless people making a living selling newspapers shut down because of this story. So what happened is we wrote up a document. Republican executive county director signed it, and both he and I went to the Democratic Party, which is down on Central and Thomas, where it was down there. We went down there, and he signed it. We went to Maricopa County, and we go, here, we do not want the T1 line have anything to do, because they would have the room, it was all glassed off, and it's like isolated, there's nobody can get in there with this big freaking internet cable in the back. I go, you freaking think we're stupid? So when we did that, they freaked. The Republican and the Democratic guy were immediately fired. They were in paid positions.
taking care of the Republican guy. The reason we got to know each other is because we were going around all the schools and so on. They'd ask for participation. We would go around and we would debate. Me and the Republican guy were kind of in agreement. He's like, well, I can't say anything because all our guys are communists, but I pretty much agree with Ernie. The Democrat guy, well, I used to be socialist. He was kind of socialist. I don't need to be socialist anymore because Democrats are socialists, so I'm Democrat now. I mean, actually say this, pass out stuff, save the planet, people, and, we'll take from all these guys. So this is how I got to know these people inside. 1994 election, they were doing, that's when early balloting started. I'll tell you this because this is good information. It's when the first mail-in early balloting started. The reason is the National Committee from the Republicans came in, they said, we need a law passed in Arizona so that we can have early balloting. The reason is they wanted to have Kyle take over from Deacon City's office. He was a congressman, he was running for U.S. Senate. They wanted Kyle. They wanted John Shattuck, which was prosecutor here, whatever needs going on. They wanted him to be a congressman. And they wanted Fife Symington over whoever else, what's her name was. Yeah. So they go, okay, we need these three people in here. Well, of course, we need Symington to push this early balloting thing. So we lost the early presidential preference primary, which was a taxpayer-funded beauty contest. It had no binding anything on anybody, but it was taxpayer-funded for them to have their beauty. In 1996, the Libertarians sued, said we're not going to spend gazillions of dollars to pick, a straw poll for the Libertarians when we already picked them days before our convention. What kind of crap is that? So in 96, we won. Doing 2000, we go, yeah, we don't want to participate this time. They go, oh, that lawsuit was 96. You have to do it in 2000. But we won. Oh, you got to file suit again. Really? How far off am I? So I'm going, all right, I see where this is going. 94, this is what they did. My counterpart over at the Republican Party said, Ernie, I want to show you something. He was already, by then, he's done with it. He's like, he knew how corrupt it was. He had an office in the Republican Party headquarters down on 24th Street and wherever it is, or 16th Street, wherever, downtown. So he goes, come here, I want to show you something. I walk in, and you have 8 sharing different offices. In a big room in the front there, he had this big IBM card reader thing, okay? This is the size of 4 of these tables. And what they've done is they sent a early ballot request form to every registered Republican in the state. This is like 1 million or something, okay? They sent that out to them, and it had a barcode postcard so that all you had to do was sign the back of it and say, yes, I want to receive an early ballot, getting. Where was it? It had a barcode and an address, and it went to them and returned address and all that stuff, had their voter number and so on. It goes back, and it was addressed to P.O. Box, County Election, whatever the heck it was. It didn't go to Maricopa County Elections. It went to the Elections Department of the Republican Party. The Republican Party gets tens, hundreds of thousands of these cards, and they took and ran them through that machine. Now they get a printout. They printed out a dot matrix, printouts, and we know this because they get it off kilter when we go dumpster dive on. That's what Tamara Clark showed us to do. She goes, let me show you something. We went in their dumpster, and there all the information is. Cool, fax numbers, all kinds of shit. We had lots of fun with that. So, because we saw this VW bug coming in, took all our trash bags and ran off and watched it. What the hell was that about? She goes, they're dumpster diving. Don't you do dumpster diving? And when she went in there, it was night and we didn't see it. There was an old toner cartridge in there. She came out and she was black for a week. So then we go, okay, we get all these, fax numbers that we made, Zeke Kyle, when he voted for the assault weapons ban, we're faxing that to all his Washington fax numbers and stuff else. So anyway, so what we did is we go, okay, this is what they're doing. Those cards came in, they ran them through the machine, they got their printout, and they had phone banks. People are all calling them. Who are you voting for in the Republican primary for governor, Senate, and for Congress? Well, this guy, this guy, this guy. Okay, cool. If you answered correctly, your card got sent to Maricopa County Elections, you got your ballot. If you answered incorrectly, it went to the dumpster. I still have copies of them. They did not forward your early ballot because if you were going to vote the way the party wanted you to, you didn't get early ballot.
And that was on the part of what party?
Both of them now.
But then.
Both of them now.
The Republicans.
Both of them now. Someone thinks there's a difference. It was the Republican Party that did it, but the Democrats didn't miss a heartbeat. Okay? So they still do this now. When the Gutenkopfs and I took Jim Sharp, morning show, or he was a KDAR at the time or something, The Goop and I went down there with them and a reporter from the Arizona Republic and walked them through this process. And I go, okay, to check those card signatures, it takes how long? We did it, did a time study. Okay, set it up, check it, okay, next one. They didn't have the manpower to check them. It was physically, mathematically impossible for them to do it. They weren't doing it. They were taking the cards and they're going, yeah, we just bypass that thing, go over here, and processing them, send them out. To the tune of 60, 70, 80,000 unaccounted for early balloting. That did, I mean, it just went on and on and on. Here, the reporter, she's like, man, I should have never came. I don't know nothing. Jim Sharp goes, my spidey senses were going off the entire time. And what we found out is that those cards, when they do the request, okay, and the ballots that come in, when those ballots come in, you would think that they would get mailed to Maricopa County Elections Department at blah, blah, blah address. The U.S. Postal Service has responsibility under federal law to step right in there, put the ballot there, here I deliver them. Is that what happens? No! They deliver them to the post office, and they have an employee from Maricopa County Election goes and picks up the early ballot. They take a pen and deliver them to the county elections to count them.
They stop down the way.
They do what the hell they want. They switch them out. They do it. They get printed. They take these, replace them with that. They do whatever the hell they want.
On the right.
While we were talking to them, and the reporters were standing there was a guy that was kind of shadowing about 12 feet behind. He was just standing back there the whole time, never said anything. And I go, does anybody follow this van? Is there any follow-up? Is he by himself? How do they do it? Why don't you just have them delivered here? Same postage. Why are you going to the post office to get why? And this guy all of a sudden pipes up, oh, yeah, we got a guy that follows him, and we followed, I shouldn't say anything. We don't think we know. So what do? Republicans, Liddy, G. Gordon Liddy's son, what's his name? Tom Liddy. Tom Liddy's came here. He was mentioned because there was a candidate in Ahwatukee that was doing what the county party was doing. You could put it on a liner on McDonald's tray if you wanted to. And you just say, I request, blah, 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 give it to them, you send it, you mail it, they send you your early ballot. So, candidates, now still, unless they changed it recently, they've been doing it for, since they've been doing this. Right now, I can run for office, pass out, I do the flyers on trash cans. They could just say, get your early balloting thing right here, send it in the mail, fill out the information here with your vote or whatever, do the preparation, tear it up, put it in the mailbox, boom, get your early ballot. And where do it go? My house. They're still doing it. Damn straight they're doing it. They go to my house, right? Or they do all these cards. Hey, who you voting for? Oh, the other guy? All the guys vote for him. What do? They send them into the county elections. They get their early ballot.
Yeah.
Why aren't they changing that? We at the press, we're standing right there. I know what you're doing. And they go, yeah. That's it, right here. I'm supposed to have faith in this system?
And to back up what you're saying, Ernie, the same thing happened at the Arizona primary. They were just flat blatant what they did to Ron Paul. They went up there with the PC guy standing right there at the ballot box, taking it and stuffing it.
Right
and they said, you can't do that. He says, yes, I can.
Beryl, Ruth, how far off am I?
I think you're correct. I just don't know how long we've been letting this happen to us.
Here's somebody inside the Republican Party going to the meeting, seeing this, they brag about it.
I think you're actually having an impact, or you have been, because a lot of the, I saw an article the other day on one of the major news sources, one of the mainstream media. They figured out that people are not answering accurately to the polls. There is this.
Right. It is.
Polls are, who knows?
I have, the thing is, people will say all this stuff, and I'm going, look, how much of this do I, and how often do I got to say this stuff? The Gookoffs know this. Anybody inside the party knows this. Anybody that's been, tracking this and so on. I have enough institutional knowledge from being these young activists that are around, and they go to me. Vince Prentice, I just saw him a couple weeks ago at a party up in Vegas, and we were talking about this and so on. And I remember when the Levolution, before it even started, I already told them what the plan was. I said, you watch what happens. We're going to start making these signs. We're going to send them to my activist friends around the country. We're going to get some YouTube. It's going to explode like you could never imagine. They're like, some guys go, oh, Bashar, and he's just on another one of his, whatever that keeps working, And he goes,
but then understood, he's known me a long time, and he knew that I'd probably be able to pull it off. And he goes to me and he says, Ernie, he goes, if you do this, give the illusion, the delusion to the generation next that voting's somehow going to make them free. And I go, and so you heard me say this before. I go, no, they're going to learn the same thing I did. But the system is totally corrupt at every level in every way possible. Because I was them 20 years ago. I went through all this stuff. I saw it happen. And with the internet and YouTube and Facebook, everybody's going to see it happen. I wanted them to get involved. I wanted them to get inside. But I knew that I will not have anything to do with Ron Paul's campaign. I will not have anything to do with the Republican Party. I have nothing to do with Campaign for Liberty. I have nothing to do with anything except advocate for the individuals to do what they want. And I will help them. I will help Frank get everybody to vote for Gary Johnson. I will help, the Gutenkopf trying to fix the thing. I'm the one that helped hook them up with Johnson and get all that done and passed and ran for Secretary of State and doing it. Let me tell you how that came about. In 2004, there was an election that was really close that triggered a runoff. I mean, if it's 50 votes or 0.5% or some crap like that, you automatically have to have a recount. Well, it kept changing all the time. 500 ballots kind of showed up.
District 20? District 20? Was District 20?
Yeah, I can't remember which one, but it's right. But it was back and forth. It kind of make a big deal, make a big deal, big deal.
Right.
So at the time, this is when Goldwater, Dan Goldwater was running. I had him in studio with Charles one time, and I go, look, I know you know what's going on. And just the look on his face, man, I could tell. Yeah, that's what I thought. So what happened is there was competing election frauds. They had the softwares being messed with. At the same time, you had people just throwing paper in there. So they was kind of jacking up all their crap. Their software, the recounts and everything, was based on a set number of the paper, and they had more paper and screwed up the recount. It wasn't like election fraud, it was competing election fraud. So what happened? He got out and drug out. Jack Harper, a incumbent, and he was kind of sympathetic to the election fraud and wants to look good, and he's like, America or something. He gets up and he says, I'm the head of the government committee on scumbag committee or something. And he goes, oversight or whatever, and he goes, I'm doing a Senate subpoena, which I guess they can do. And he goes, Senate subpoena. I want all the ballots in the caucus room right now, today. I'm going to bring it in here. We're just going to count them by hand and be once and for all done with this. What the hell is the problem? Because I knew in '94, I was running for Secretary of State, that Jane Hull, Speaker of the House, and Pete Rios, President of the Senate, both were running for Secretary of State because they wanted to get in control of that because it was a powerful position. Why? Because they both shepherded in legislation that made it illegal for you to ever use the paper to compare with the computer. It was illegal to do what they needed to do, was just take the paper and go 1 + 2, but that was illegal. You had to run it through the corrupt computer again. And you just kept doing it. And when they kept adding paper, it kept screwing it up. So they're going, what the hell are we doing? Jack Harper goes, done. Senate subpoena, I want all the papers right here, right now. We'll put it up here, and we'll go and we'll count them right in front of everybody and God, do it. 2 hours later, the guy claimed jurisdiction or anything, took all the ballots, and you never heard about it again.
That's right. That's right.
Just took them. Just took them. Why? Because it was the 2004 presidential election. And they evaporated. And I'm sitting there running for Secretary of State on television. You can go look it up. It has me up there. I'm going, no. You're still voting? This is what happened. I'm asking you to not vote. Make sure it counts by keeping it. This is all BS. So the thing is, I don't think I know. I know. So to have some legitimacy to the system, Gutenkopf, along with some other people, myself and Karen Johnson and Ted Downey and all these guys, drafted legislation that required that 2% of the ballots, we want 10%, that 2% of the ballots are hand counted and compared with what the computer says just to see if the computer's accurate. Under that provision, Jack Harper said, okay, you track ballot boxes all the way. And it goes into a secure, vaulted area in county elections with a web camera 24/7 watching them. What happens? They disappear. Where did they go? Where did they go, Dan? They went to Sheriff Joe's training room. Sheriff Joe was in charge of them. Then we file suit. Michael Kilsey's the attorney. We go through the stuff. Jim March is there. He goes like this. They go, oh, well, they can't get in those. They have a seal. Then what do we find out? They order them in pen with the same number. Then we go and he goes, oh, it's even worse than that. Let me show you something. He takes the hinges on it and he pulls it out and opens the whole thing. That's not very secure. Right there. Yep, it's done. I don't think I know.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
So what did the judge say? Yeah, well, yeah, they did violate the law. We'll give you that. It's too late. It's after it's over, and life sucks, and get over it. Seriously. So now can you kind of understand what I call bullshit on the entire system? And Arizona's just an example. And now it's even got worse. It's just a screen.
Yeah.
And I hear him complaining now. I voted in Ohio, and I pushed for Mitt Romney, and the screen said Obama. Oh, well, hell, if it said Mitt Romney on the screen, well, then I guess it was okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? This is the mindset that we're in. Until it's on paper with a pen kind of go, collecting the arrows kind of thing, how hard is that to count? We get electronic voting that goes for, we do it because we need it really fast, and then we wait weeks to see who won. When we could just do it at the precinct and under public supervision.
Exactly right. At one time, wasn't there a state, I think maybe Nevada, that actually had a none of the above option?
Nevada.
Okay. They still have it.
I don't know. Nevada has a different kind of legislature. They'll elect a legislature that meets once for a 2-year period. They just do the budget and they're done. And there's so many things. I mean, I go on and on and on. There is enough evidence that Frank.
5 minutes.
No, I'm done. There is enough evidence, I hope, that you can understand. I don't need you to, agree, or I'm going to convince you that it's messed up. But there's enough stories and stuff that I've been able to share with you for you to understand why I'm so convinced. Because so what is the solution? Is it voting? Is it propping up the system by which I'm being devoured? Or is it to use that system in order to be able to have attention when it counts, when people are paying attention, to do this kind of stuff? It's just to get them up here. It's a culture thing. Because you're right, it's going to be local. It's going to come down to local. If they pass this 121, I'm going to demonstrate how in the 14 we're going to have an impact by using these city elections in 13. Because I'm going, look, that's what the city elections are. They're nonpartisan, going in everybody, whatever the primary is the election. Let me see. And if I don't do it in the primary, that doesn't right there they say I can be a write-in in the general. Shit. Like libertarians worry about winning anyway. I'll go in the general, have a libertarian write-in freaking blanket of signs everywhere moving the hump. That's what we do best. So when you do have the next Ron Paul, when you do get a Gary Johnson kind of sort of almost wish I was Ron Paul, okay? When you get this kind of stuff, you still have that cultural shift and that pure of heart. They have already capitulated to the dark side before they even had the opportunity. This generation next that's come up, they haven't compromised a lot of them. A lot of them have. I mean, we go, we got to be empowered. They're the ones that, press shirts and ties at 25, walking around, I'm going to be senator someday. I know those types, okay? But you have some of the real hardcore activists, they have yet to sell their soul because they can see through this kind of activism that, yes, they can have a change and a difference and feel good about themselves advocating for real liberty and not compromise. So that's why I do this, because I was them. I don't want to compromise. People that are around the Breakfast Club, I've been around for 20 years. Have I changed?
No.
It's just that the culture has.
You're a lot bigger.
I've only noticed that recently as I've seen more pictures of myself. I'm going, damn, that boy got fat. So we're working on that. Thanks, guys. Frank, you need to make an announcement. 4409 needs money. Go give him money when we get done.
Hey, can Shelby have a couple minutes to tell what he did?
What happened? Yeah, tell.
Tell your story real quick.
I got arrested.
Let's go.
Again? I was going for a walk. I went by photo our van. I called him a thief. He gets out of the van. Exchanged arguments. Well, we just sit there and talk. he pushes the bat signal, which is to tell the cops to come. And he's very smart. He got me. So I think right after I called him that, he pushed the bat signal and kept me there arguing. It was a setup. I'm thinking, I can't read his mind. Cop comes around, takes my phone, blah, blah, puts me in jail. But then I went in to see the judge. It's the same judge that I filed a counter suit against. No, it was a different judge. Second judge. He goes, $3,500 bail. I'm like going, seriously, for disorderly conduct? I mean, that's like littering in the park. And that was it. $3,500.
$3,500.
Totally outrageous. And then he said, you got 30 minutes to make it. 30 minutes?
No, they did a plea. They wanted to do a plea.
No, yeah, he said you got 30 minutes to make bail. And then when I was calling around, they were freaking out, thinking I was going to get it. So they only gave me 30 minutes, but then I was having a little bit of success. So they were worried about it. Then they said, oh, the court wants to see you. I walk out. It's like literally 10 minutes after I seen the judge. She goes, oh, we got a plea agreement. $234. You know, we're having a sale. And when she said year probation, I said, nah, I'm out on this deal.
Yeah, really.
I know your probation's. Plus, I'll be walking again and then get in trouble. So I said no, and then I was trying to get the bail, and they cut the phones off. And then she says, you don't get it, we're taking you to Fourth Ave. And this was in the morning. So they deliberately wanted to take me downtown because they knew I would get out for 2 days. And it was all planned. It's going to feel like I'm rushing you. I don't want you to talk that way. But you got 20 minutes in this room to call your lawyer. And, you know, I'm trying to call Mark Victor and all this stuff. And he says, oh, you didn't make it. Sorry about that. And I said, well, let me make another phone call. They put me in the room and they cut the phone off. I couldn't call out. So then they dragged me down to Fourth Ave and I was done for 2 days. You know, couldn't get out.
Oh.
So it's just.
Were you in the horseshoe or did you go upstairs?
Horseshoe. And they moved
Okay,
me
now,
upstairs and they
tell them about the phone.
Oh, yeah, they stole the phone, my phone.
Which all your numbers in it, it's true. I just want
Yeah. What's on that phone? That's what's
Well, they
a little
took
worried
his
about that.
evidence because he was videotaping everything that was going on, so they have that.
See, the thing that's interesting to me is all about the phone. Because if they get the phone, they're going to take off all the information. They get, you know, me calling with my number on, trying to get hold of you, you know. And they're going, Ernie, damn it! You know.
And I have a password, which I'm sure they can get around that pretty easy.
But what they do is, do they take it, wipe all the information of it, and give it to their niece? Because they didn't list it as personal property, so it's not in inventory anywhere. So he's like, well, what did they do with it? Where's it at? How do we got it? When are you getting off of it? And you had to go to who?
I went down to Internal Affairs, and then I said, hey, this isn't listed on the inventory report, and you didn't list it as you put it into property. So where is it? Oh, well, let's find out. Give me a few minutes. And then they knew who I was right when I walked in the door. I said, yeah, I'm Shelton. They said, oh, yeah, that sounds familiar. and they were just talking about this case when I walked in. So that guy, the cop, oh, I got to tell you this real quick. When that cop took me into the jail, I went to this jail guard, and it's the guy that I sued that stomped on my foot.
Oh!
And I said, oh, we meet again. And I go, I don't think you should be around here. And he goes, yeah, I don't think I should be either. And he just turned around and walked.
What about the phone?
The phone, I remembered when we pulled up to the precinct, he's going to back his car against the wall. And I thought it was strange how he backed his car against the wall. So the cameras can't face it. So the cop gets out of his car, goes to the back of his trunk. And I didn't know what he was really doing, didn't really pay attention to it. But he was throwing the phone in the back of the trunk. And then he slammed the trunk, then got me out of the car. Then we went inside. So he never listed the phone. Went to Internal Affairs. They magically found it. Oh, he turned it into inventory. And I said, oh, well, yeah, well, right after, right at the time. And I said, we'll be finding that out. You know exactly. Where did he turn it actually turned into a precinct up north.
See,
Not
it's
at
all
the precinct
about
where
the
he was at.
phone.
And he wanted that phone, and he thought he was going to get away with it until I went to Traverse.
Good for you.
Now all of a sudden they're covering each other's tracks, and when you do that, people's eyes are going to be exposed.
So then, Anonymous and friends of John get involved. He put out something on the story that we did on Freedom's Phoenix. Freedom's Phoenix went stupid on his case. They love 409 on the internet. So what happens? An email gets sent by the senior editor of Freedom's Phoenix, Kyle Gamble. Hey, I'd like to see the police report. He orders the police report. Mark Victor's want to see the police report. They're like, let's go report the screw. So they always want to drag this stuff out. And they think that we want to get it taken care of. And no, we want to drag it out. I mean, as long as we can.
This is something I really didn't want to deal with. I mean, I really didn't want to deal with stupid arrests like this. But what's good about this is that I've always wanted to expose the stupid, moronic law of disorderly conduct that they put on everybody as a contempt of cop. I'm butthurt by your words, so this is the law that they put on. I feel you made me feel bad. So I'm saying
Anonymous just thought that you like the prison food, so we were just kind of curious. That's what.
They've asked me what?
We were looking up all your police reports. Yeah. It was like, was it just like prison food?
Yeah. That doesn't kiss ass. They don't like that.
But I wanted to expose the whole thing. Renee has a charge of disorderly conduct. Even and they know this is used all across the United States. Powell Gamble. You're right. You're right. And
he had to go to anger management classes.
But I wanted to expose the whole thing because when I looked at court cases that went to the Supreme Court, one of them was a girl that cussed out her teacher, called her a bitch. You know what? And the cops came to the school and charged her with disorderly conduct. Well, they fought and cleared the Supreme Court. And the justice there said, no, this is not disorderly conduct. It's offensive. She called her teacher a bitch. But it's not disorderly conduct because it didn't involve fighting. There wasn't some kind of excitement of riot. And that's what has to be involved. And the cops know this, the sergeants know this, they all know this, and they see it. And so I want to sue them and make this really big where they finally say, yes, this is, if we're not fighting, it's not. You'll finally get either it is or it isn't. Right, Thomas?
See everybody.
Stop ignoring people.
Okay. This is the books in the back there. First choice is 3174.
3174?
3174.
I have it.
Right. Second choice. 3146. 3146. Okay, third one is left.
Okay, for Christmas, for the next meeting, I'm going to make up a whole bunch of stuff to put on the table for gifts. Okay? Next, we may have some freezing silver medallions